And on that note, we cue the music.
Matt, Matt, Matt. Matt, Matt, Matt. Matt, Matt, Matt. Matt, Matt, meow. Well, hello. It's TGIS. Thank God it's Sunday. And I want to welcome everybody to the show. Tonight, we're going to be talking about, so you think you want to start a toy line, huh? Do you think it's easy? It's easier than it used to be, but is it easy? And that's what we're going to discuss tonight. I got a really awesome guest and another guest slash co-host. Yeah. Anyway, embargo first. Good job. Proud of you. And at least you put first. Thank you very much for that. And I'm going to bring in my co-host guest. Yeah. Anyway, all the way from Mar-a-Lago, Florida, the 45th president of these United States of America.
Hey there, Chad. Chad, how we doing tonight?
Hello, my friend.
Good evening.
How are you?
Doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing quite stellar.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Stellar. I like that.
Yeah. I see you all the time, but it feels like I don't. Is it like blue t-shirt day? It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we got to bring somebody in to bust up the whole blue t-shirt thing. And all the way from CALLSIGN Longbow. What's up, sir?
Hey, guys.
How are you?
Great.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is going to be a very eye-opening discussion for a lot of people. I think some people just think that, Kickstarter's a thing now. I can just make a toy line, but is it really that easy?
It is exactly that easy.
Oh, Mikey.
It's the funding that's tricky.
Before we get into it, I got a little icebreaker for you guys. All the way from Doc Painless. Do you consider Frank Castle, the Punisher, to be in the G.I. Joe universe? I do. What do you think, Mike?
I would say yes.
Weird.
Yeah, I would say yes. I do.
John?
Absolutely. This is one of the topics I was going to talk about tonight, but
sweet.
I think that a toy box is an awesome concept. And when Mikey was little, when I was little, like everything went in the toy box.
Yep.
So when you are doing your version of whatever you're playing with or whatever world you're living in, man, any character that fits can be in there. And yeah, absolutely, Punisher is a total badass. So I would want him in there.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of, headcanon continuity, and just because one IP is a different scale than another IP, at least that's how it used to be. Not so much anymore these days, but when we were kids, my mask was part of my G.I. Joe universe, and Transformers were in there, and Transformers alone, they were all different sizes and scales, and they didn't scale well with each other, but yeah, they all got played with together equally, and I think I carried that over into my adulthood because the 4-inch mask stuff, the Masterpiece Transformer stuff that scales with the 4-inch Joes, and I kind of lump it all in there. I lump Metal Gear Solid and Snake Plissken, and they're all in my G.I. Joe universe. So sure, why not? Put Frank Castle in there, go for it. Mikey, you were saying that you got a lot of Marvel characters in your Joe world, right?
Well, over the years of playing with GI Joes, there were many iterations of Marvel characters. O-Rings had a Wolverine. I think I did have a Punisher. Yeah, that's always been part of the deal.
Sure, why not? I mean, if you can have like Raptor and Crystal Ball and Naugahyde, why can't you have Wolverine?
Yeah, I would 100% substitute the latter for the former.
Chris from Cutthroat Comics says, "Come on over, see Mikey play Trump."
Check it out.
Awesome. Antonio Liferant says, "Gents, have a great show. I'll catch the replay. Appreciate that. Replay Squad is it's actually really important for YouTube channels. So catching things live, IRL, as the kids say, is cool, but it's the replay that gets the longevity. So always appreciate that." Tony Horton says, "Hello, everyone. Hope all is well with you all."
What's up, Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. And then James Lucas says, "Dolly time.
Dolly time.
Is Dolly time." All the way from the UK. Our good friend George Aikens in the house. Thanks for being here, George. And some frickin' jerks here.
Yojo jerk.
And of course, the Super Goat action figure that Yojo Jerk sent me is now part of the permanent display. Faux show.
Part of the lore.
Yep. The Real Zim. What's going on? Good to see you. Oh, look at this. Somebody caught it. Jeff Butler says Night Striker tease in Chad's background.
You never know what you're going to find in the background.
Yep.
You just never know.
Yeah. Now everyone's like,
yeah, now they're scanning your stuff.
there's the Night Striker. That video will be out tomorrow morning, and I'm still furiously editing that because it is kicking my ass. But, yeah. Dale Santaford says, "Every time we see Mike, he has to go into a Donald Trump impression."
Peer pressure's a bitch. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, man. That's life. I'm going to say Dolly. There might be a goat scream. Mikey's going to do Papa Trump. Consistency. Right? You got to be consistent. James from Ratface44 is here. What's up, brother? Good to see you. Nico Tronus. What's going on? George Aiken says, "So many Kickstarter failures that ended in lots of complaints."
That's true. That's true. For a plethora of reasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons.
There's definitely
you had a lot of guys doing it at the same time, just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I know that Bobby was kind of talking about this on 3POA, specifically last night with Ryan. They were kind of discussing this whole thing about like fans who go to create toy lines or Instagram people who go to create toy lines and things like that, and seeing the failures in that. Yeah. What about toy reviewers who try to make toy lines? That was kind of a trend. Yeah, look at John laughing. We're not going to name names, but yeah, that's a thing. Jesse from JLS Comics, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Jeff Butler says Chuck Dixon wrote G.I. Joe and Punisher. So there you go.
It's true.
Yep.
They both came out under the same publisher, so.
Ooh, that's right. Beta Ray Bob says Captain America, Falcon, and Winter Soldier would fit in with G.I. Joe. Yeah. I mean, if Sergeant Savage does, right? Sergeant Savage, Captain Steve Rogers. Come on now.
Fury and his Howling Commandos. Come on now.
Fury Force and G.I. Joe? No, come on. That's not a thing. See, John knows that's not a thing. Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
Junkie on Crafts and Builds says, "What's up, all you toxic a-holes?"
Chad's the only one with that label. Mine's coming. Mine's in the mail.
Yeah, yours is in the mail. You're gonna have to pay for postage. Postage paid upon delivery.
Bump those numbers up. I got rookie numbers.
Yeah, you got rookie numbers. JLS says peanut butter dolly time.
Yeah.
Father Son Galaxy's here. Samantha Blue Serendipity says Fellowship of the Dollies. You know it. Yep. HGC's
One
in the
line
house.
to
What's
rule
up,
them
dude?
all.
Paul Knapp. See, this is what I like. 12-inch guys supporting those 118 scale guys.
Hey, two-thirds of the party tonight are well versed in 12-inch Joes. Got my teeth on that.
I mean, I'm not ignorant. I'm not ignorant to them. I just,
I mean, that's
don't have any.
that was more of a thing when I was coming up than 3 3/4. Where I mean, Dad and I would go to like flea markets and stuff and get a bag of O-rings, but 12-inch were on the shelf.
Nice. Media Clash and his chickens are here. Thanks for being here, brother. Hello, Catfish. Is that you, Michael? Are you catfishing as the prez?
Maybe I could see that.
But I mean, I could see your face, so I don't know.
But is that his face?
Well, we'll have to wait and see how that shakes out.
Is
Come
it?
to DFW and find out.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Great.
Figure Assassin says, "Hey, Mikey, got a quick question. Do you have someone sending you a free copperhead?"
Yeah, maybe.
What's
Maybe
the joke in that?
Maybe so. Stinky Cat Butt is sending me some stuff that I bought from him on Mercari before I even knew it was that individual.
Right, you and I talked about that.
So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna put a copperhead in here. And I was like, very cool. Okay, sweet.
Neato, come here. You want to say hi? Come here. Oh, the puppy wants to say hi.
What's up, Callie?
Hi. Okay, get down. Okay. Now we're gonna do this. Northern Nomad, what's up? Says Bobby was ticked about typical YouTubers trying to get into toy making and perceiving it as so easy. Yeah. Yep.
Well, you're for wanting to get into it, though, right? I mean, passion.
Perception is reality until you learn it.
Yeah, until it smacks you in the face.
But that's also the cool thing about the renaissance of O-rings is and toys coming and fans making the toys is most of us do talk to each other and do share knowledge. Some of us don't, but a lot of us do.
Right.
It's really hard.
We're all kind of learning lessons.
Yeah, and it's really hard to share with somebody who is already telling you that there's nothing to it. And and having been a part of a couple of different Kickstarters, I've seen a lot of comments that people I don't think really know all of the things,
right?
Because there are YouTube videos out there that manufacturers have put out that just make it look like, hey, send us your mold and we'll make it in 2 weeks, and that shit doesn't happen. I mean, it does if you're just making like little unarticulated army men or something. You can probably have stuff turned around pretty fast,
right?
But to actually make something that has to work together, the pieces have to work together a certain way, and especially if you are trying to hit a target, like this is what I want this to be, and I won't settle for anything else.
Yeah,
and Bobby knows that as good as anybody. I mean, he had a vision of what he wanted to do, what he wanted to be better than, what he wanted it to look like, what he wanted to feel like, and that's what he went after. And so to have somebody to do that and push that for several years and put everything you got into it, and then have somebody pop up and be like, I don't see what the big deal is. You just send them a drawing and they make.
I do this crap in my sleep, man. Whatever. Yeah. And that was another thing that they were really discussing last night about how, like, I'm sure you know this all too well, John, that whoever you contract to make your toys, they're not going to err on the side of quality. They're going to err on the side of easy. So unless you stay on top of them, they're just going to do it the easy way.
Most of the time, you're dealing directly with the factory.
Right.
Some of us are fortunate enough to have an in-between that handles that sort of thing. But when you're dealing directly with the factory and you hand them off a design, you really don't know what you're going to get back.
Right. Yeah.
And it does happen, you know, with even when you do have a correspondent, because that person is going to say, like, this is what they sent. I don't think this is what you wanted. Well, now you're so many months deep into the project. Like, what do? Do you say, well, tell them to fix it, and then you have mold reworks or a total sculpt rework because the factory did the sculpt for you because that was part of their, you know, really good pricing deal. You know, so you get in on that. And then next thing you know, you're 2 years in, and people are asking where your money is. People are mad at you.
Refunds
People start calling you a thief.
Right.
You know, and there is a pretty good example out there of a Kickstarter that went through that, and he is still going through that.
Yep.
I mean, everything that could go wrong went wrong with that project, and he's had people, you know, threatening him with class action lawsuits. And he, you know. The project is still going. I get updates on it all the time because I'm part of that team, and I was the parts designer. You know, I was the modeler. So that bugs me too. I mean, this guy, you know, it's the Complex Series 2. That project went through. Raging Spoon went through all kinds of hell when it started. His original vendor disappeared and basically told him if he wanted his parts, he had 2 days or he wanted his molds, he had 2 days to get it. So he got somebody over there to go get it. The molds were trashed. Everything had to be redone. He was coming in basically as a favor, you know?
Yeah.
And the factory was like, well, you know, we'll do this for you. We'll put it in. Well, hell, they were doing things for other companies, you know, and he went to the back of the line, and then they had to re-engineer everything because the stuff that came from the other factory was bad. I did models. We did 3D prints of it. We took it to AR one year, and people were just thrilled. Everything worked, but then when we started getting pieces, they didn't fit together. And it was just rework after rework. And you know, he's still working with the factory to get a slot to where they can start building stuff. They built half his stuff and said, hey, why don't you just ship half of it? Well, okay, I have a limited budget. The Kickstarter's been over for a few years now. I don't have the money to drop on sending half of it and then sending the other half later. You know, that's another thing people don't think about is shipping costs, not just getting it here, but from here to everybody.
Right.
You can't drop ship things from China. That doesn't work.
Right.
You know, so, you know, he's going through that, and he's taking a lot of hits for that. And I can assure you that project is alive and well. We are still seeing samples. Everything's starting to come together, but there had to be some reworks on some stuff that had already been done, you know. And you know, it's a bad deal for Spoon because he really is involved in that. He really is trying to work with them and get that done, but the factory just has other priorities because his was brought in after they'd already promised all these other people they'd get their stuff.
Right. And that's another thing that we see a lot of companies using the same factories. And so all it takes is one to get, you know, a hiccup or something, and then you get that domino effect. Which,
well, you know, and
we've seen that.
And that is actually a very valid thing and something that I would like to touch on for a minute. And that is that when we go to this factory does high quality product. It did Dime Novel Legends, Marauder. They were very upfront with us, and they said, well, as long as you only like do 6 SKUs, you know, six numbers, 6 part numbers, 6 figures, as long as you only do 6 SKUs, we could get that done quick. Well, we knew we had to do more than 6 figures.
Right.
So that doubled the time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So look at the Marauder Vietnam Kickstarter. That was
huge,
a raging success.
Huge. Yeah.
And Marauder, you know, they wanted to do what the fans wanted. So they just kept adding figures, and they kept adding new sculpts, and they kept adding things to it. The factory wants to do the product. They've done it since the beginning. So the factory's like, yeah, we can do that. Well, that was 2 big Kickstarters before us, before Longbow.
Yep.
So that timeline now went from this to this to this.
Yep.
Robo Skull was extremely popular. That was a killer Kickstarter.
Yep.
But again, there's a lot of engineering work to do with the factory. You do a 3D model and you think it's done, and then they make molds, and there's shrinkage factors. There's all these things that can go sideways, and everybody wants to build a quality product. So you pick a factory, maybe you pick a fly-by-night factory, and it goes totally sideways, or you get lucky and your product comes through before everybody else's.
Yeah.
But then so here we have Marauder here, and then from here to here is Robo Skull. We're gonna fit in there somewhere. Rage and Spoon's complex stuff is being stuck in wherever it can be stuck in. Whatever is still being done with Dime Novel Legends at that factory. There are all of these, and it just this guy he said he was only gonna have 3 things, now he has 6, so now that pushes the timeline.
Yeah.
And you would think that because we're building O-rings, you would think like, oh, we'll just tell the workers to go over and just build O-rings. They've got them set up already. Well, that is not how those factories operate.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a very different culture in China than it is here. The work culture, the spirit of camaraderie really isn't their biggest concern. Their concern is to build product and pump it out and do what they have to do to make their money. Which there are a lot of companies here like that, but most of us are small operations with 2 to 5 people actually doing all the work, and just and we can't help that. We said, okay, we talked to the factory, and they're, oh yeah, that stuff will be ready in July. That stuff will be ready in September. Like, great. And you kind of go with it. Hey, it's going to be fall, and then next thing you know, it's Chinese New Year, and oh, there's a month that nothing's going to be
spring. Yeah.
And now it's going to be spring, and then summer, right. And it's difficult, and it's hard as a creator and as a maker to handle that, because you do see a lot of companies that are able to get product faster, but it may not be as good of a, I'm not going to say as good, because it's relative, right?
Right.
If you said, I just want to make an O-ring figure, I don't care. And you say, I just want to make one, and I'm basically just going to use an old mold and reuse it. Okay, if you can find a factory that will still mold that way, that will still follow that process, that's great. Again, those molds have shrinkage, those molds have issues. They don't fit together like they did, 30, 40 years ago. So a lot of that is, but they will bang out a product for you, at that quality level, and you'll have a product, you'll have it on time, you'll give it out to everybody. But when you're using a factory that is known for quality, that is known for high quality, you are banking on that factory delivering exactly what you set out to deliver.
Right.
So with Troy and I, from the beginning, and we get a lot of crap for this. People come up with stuff, they're like, oh, well, you should do this and you should do this. Well, that's fine. But our initial intent was to have the nostalgic feel of a 1980s Hasbro O-ring figure. We wanted everything to feel like that. That's what we want. And so that's what we do. People are doing other things, doing new things. We did add a little articulation to the wrist, because we thought that was just one thing that would have helped. Not just that it helps with the aesthetic of the figure, but it also makes sure you don't have broken thumbs. Yeah. And that's always, thumbs and waists are always high. We have a way we're doing the waist that hopefully will help alleviate that issue with the waist. But it's a crapshoot, and I will talk about that a little bit later, about how you choose the materials and what materials you use, and and how different production is than it was. But I think it's real important that people understand that when you back somebody and they're giving you monthly updates, they haven't most likely run away with your money. I mean, they are giving you monthly updates. They're not giving you an update like, hey, it's Chinese New Year, so I'm in the Bahamas. I haven't seen anybody really do that. But
with your money,
it is pretty easy when somebody, 4 or 5 years ago, took a lot of people for a lot of money, and then just disappeared, pops up every little bit, like, hey, I got a new idea, and then everybody gets all mad again. And so there's 1 or 2 people are doing that.
Weird.
But there's some of us that is not our intent at all.
Yeah, I remember a particularly spicy incident about some dude and a couple of play sets. Remember that, Mikey?
I do remember that. Actually saw his name pop up again.
I
was
did
like, oh my
too.
god, I
Yeah.
forgot about
I
that.
did too. It was just like,
Yeah.
hello, and people were like, knives, knives.
Yeah, you should probably not be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let
that
me,
situation was screaming.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Yeah.
Zing.
Your dad's just like, oh, you mean Screaming Eamon? Boom!
Oh,
in your face.
is that his name? Nah.
Weird.
I mean, he's an example, but he wasn't even a Kickstarter. You know?
No, but
Nope.
he did take a lot of people's money for pre-orders. He did. Let me hit the super chat real quick. Kent sends a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Kent, and says, "Good evening, all. We'll have to catch the replay. Have a great chat about dollies." And thanks again, Kent, for the super chat. And I hope you enjoy the replay and have a good evening, whatever you're doing. And then we got a couple of other comments here. One specifically for Michael. Just Jeff says, evening. Hope everyone's doing okay, except Mikey. You know what you did. A little Rodney Dangerfield. V. Conley, what's up? Vache says, looking forward to a kick-ass show. Me too. Thank you very much. The Lilith says, I have a couple of those 12-inch Joes, but I do have the Hall of Fame figures, and they were awesome. Very cool. Cool stuff. Woodman's here. What's up, Woodman? Good to see you. Yesterland Toys, stopping by real quick, Chad and fellas, to say hi. Back to resting. Hope you feel better. Yeah. Beta Ray Bob says, if you're going to bring up the Nom, don't forget Nth Man. That's true. Yeah, because Lilith brought up the Nom comic. I tried to make an Nth Man from Joe's as a kid. That's awesome.
Nice.
Very cool. Just making sure I'm up on the chat because the chat just gets you. Oh, Jay Bartlett.
Yay.
Jay Bartlett. Why aren't you in here, Jay?
Get on in here.
You're supposed to be in here. Get in here. Everyone's fine. We're just missing you. You should come hang out.
We could be just a little bit better.
Mikey, you can send him the link. See if he jumps in. The Lilith says, John, I love your Firefox and Vintage Joe poster I see in your collection. Every time you're on, we talk about that damn Firefox poster.
Yeah, that is an original movie theater poster. It was a gift I gave to my dad. My brother at the time was working for a company that made frames for those types of posters. So he hooked him up with a frame, and I hooked him up with a poster. And when my dad passed, I made sure I snagged that.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
And the G.I. Joe poster, that's just awesome.
Sure.
You didn't snag his Rolling Stones poster?
No, I did miss that one. Wasn't as concerned about that. I mean, I like Cold War
either.
stuff,
That's why I was on the inside of the closet.
Yeah.
No, and it's Firefox, right?
It is.
Night Raven. Pardon me. Beta Ray Bob says, I look forward to the day when entry to 3D printing gets easier, more affordable, and collectors can start buying designs from independent companies and print out their own figures. That's an interesting comment. This has sort of been in the conversation about creating toys for a while. I know that specifically Jay Bartlett and Rob McCallum had a very lengthy discussion about, do you see this being the future of toys where you just buy files and out the figure?
That was one of the biggest concerns when 3D printing started with the big companies. They were concerned that people would do that. And if you look at
the streaming service, basically,
if you look at how the material has changed, materials for home 3D print have changed just over the last 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
It's not hard to think that in another 5 to 10 years, you could create things that are almost factory. And if you're the type of person that doesn't mind painting all the stuff, then I guess you could drum out a 2,000 figure run. One thing I do know about this business is that it is just how dedicated you want to be. That is how good your product is going to be. So if you are dedicated to putting time in, when we did the Kickstarter, Troy and I and even Ben Conway from Skeletron, we spent late nights talking about how to get out of that mid Kickstarter slump that happens. And it wasn't unusual for us to be. I mean, Mikey was involved in a few of those conversations where we were just asking questions. Like what could we do? What looks good? Should we do this one? We had an entire group of figures we wanted to do, and we were just trying to pick the ones that would, number one, be the ones that people wanted, and number two, still fulfill what we wanted to do, which was to do cool Cold War era action figures.
Yep.
So yeah, I
Late
think
nights
it's
in there.
possible. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Mo's here. What's up, Mo? Good to see you. And then our good friend Bear 11 Charlie says, I have 2 call sign longbow figures on order. Looking forward to having in my collection.
Good deal.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Awesome. Dude.
Appreciate
Got
it.
a Lancer and a Spetsnaz. Good man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fan Strike Back. That Bantha was dog shit. Wow, it was bad. So bad.
Missed that one.
And then Stan Solo's like, let me show you how it's done. Yeah. Jim Smith says, just a reminder for everyone, AE tonight at 9. Oh, yeah. A&E, the story of Sergeant Slaughter. That's right. That is true.
Yep. I did see something about that.
We got this reply. Yo, Jay. Yeah. Dargoon's here and says, hello. Better late than never. Absolutely. Always better late than never. How about the new Patriot Force line coming? I'm very excited about that. Are you guys tracking this Patriot Force? They were like right next to you at Joe Fest.
Yeah.
I've actually had
they were next to Sarge. Actually, sorry.
Right. I've actually exchanged some conversation with them about doing some of their paintwork for them.
Go figure.
Yeah, it's gonna be hot.
No, not Go Figure. JMK Custom Works.
Adam.
Actually,
not Go Figure. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm sure they would love to have your quality work.
I gotta practice and make sure
long-
I can make multicam look right before I
I
agree,
will
before
I will
do
get
it.
all up in your business if you frickin' screw up that.
Well, you're probably going to be a resource on how stuff looks IRL.
Hey man, totally fine.
You got
if
it on
need-
hand.
I do. I have tons of it. If you need some pieces, let me know. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
the OCP or the Scorpion 2 pattern it's a very interesting pattern. That's what it's called, Scorpion 2, but it's a very interesting pattern.
I'm less worried about
and it's
doing
actually
the multicam.
evolved. What's up?
Yeah. I was just gonna say I'm really honestly I'm less worried about doing the multicam and more worried about making digital look right because it's pixelated, you know.
The
not organic
UCP or
shape.
the universal camouflage pattern is just when you sit down to do it, put it in your mind, what does a gravel pit look like? And then then just do it in squares, because you're only going to be able to hide on grandma's couch or in a gravel pit. And UCPs, that was like the most glaring example of the stupidity of the military industrial complex, because nobody wanted it. And we were in Afghanistan using the original, it wasn't called Scorpion because it kind of had to change the name of it, because the original OCP or operational camouflage pattern was it was trademarked. It was like copyrighted. So nobody else could really use that pattern. So when we all decided every branch was going to go to the OCP, they had to change it up a little bit. So there's actually 2 distinct versions of that pattern. And I've got both. So if you want both, I can hook you up.
That'd be good.
But yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know they were licensed. I mean, I know like Realtree and stuff like that. Like they license their camos.
Yeah.
My previous job, that was relevant.
Yeah, this is like the hunt and bark pattern number 4, and yeah.
Right. Right.
Yep, absolutely. Ted Darklaw's here from Hella Dope. How you doing, brother?
Hey,
and
what's
everybody,
up, sir?
remember to go check out Hella Dope right after us.
Yeah. Let's see that website, son.
Mm-hmm. Van Morrissey, hello, or hell yeah, sorry I'm late. Punching pies on me. I love this show. Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it.
Delicious.
And not just Ted, Black Knight's here too. What's up, Aaron? Good to see you, brother. Thanks for being here, man. V. Conley says, I know a lot of people have been selling files on their Patreons to reduce their own costs of printing while letting people do as many products as they want. Yeah. Yeah.
It also gives creators the chance to do some of that R&D work that people kind of take for granted. You know, building a figure that you're going to print and you're printing it, you know, however your printer works, whether it's additive or not, you will still come to the realization that you have to be aware of how molds work. You know, I always tell people, imagine a flat surface sitting in the sunlight.
Yep.
And with a light directly on top of it. And if anything on that, what you put on that piece of plastic or on that piece of flat material, anything you put there casts a shadow down on itself, it's not going to pull out of the mold. It's going to lock up, you know, like this. So what you want is everything has to be just, and sculptors learn to, whether you're digital or classic, you learn to trick those lines so that when you look at a figure, it doesn't look like a bunch of weird angles. You may wash out the lower part of like a chest pocket. You may wash it out so it doesn't have an undercut, but your top looks nice and clean. You just learn all these little tricks to sculpting and doing that sort of thing. When you 3D print, you don't have to do that. You can make those angles tricky because the printer is going to make them.
Yeah, because you're not injecting or you're not filling a void. You're just you're adding something into a negative.
It's additive manufacturing, and that's the beauty of it. You can make anything you want literally, and as fast as your machine will make it.
You know what? Speak of the devil. Patriot Force USA.
Hey.
What is up? Good to see you with a $5
Nice.
super chat. Thank you for that. CALLSIGN Longbow had a very successful Kickstarter. Do you mind sharing marketing tips that help get you noticed? And by the way, you know, I'm just going to say it. Not only have I been 100% supportive of CALLSIGN Longbow and every other company that I believe in that friends are starting, but Patriot Force, absolutely. 100% in my wheelhouse. Just the idea of making action figures of real heroes, like real American heroes, was 100% up my alley. And we've had numerous conversations about gear and kits and setups and all that stuff. And I am so excited for Patriot Force.
Absolutely.
I talked about the toy box concept earlier, and Ken Poe had brought up a topic last year. He started calling it the O-ring Renaissance.
Yep.
And you can look at it as O-rings or modern or whatever, but I am pumped up about any O-ring figure that comes out. I'm not, I do not feel like ours is the greatest or ours is the best. I mean, it definitely is what we wanted it to be, and that was what the goal we set out. But and I want you to feel when you get those figures, I want you to feel like you're tearing open a 1987, figure. That's what I want. Right. And then when it's in your hands, I want it to feel that way too.
Yeah. And that's another aspect, is that whole tactile memory, when you touch it.
But you can see behind me here, I don't care. Like I want it all. Like I want all the O-ring stuff. I want all the non-O-ring stuff. I love toys. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love toys. Right. And so for me, when somebody says, "Hey, did you hear about Delta 17? Did you hear about Patriot Force?" Yeah, I heard about them. I'm following them. I want everybody to be successful, and it's really great to me because a lot of these guys, we talk amongst ourselves, or we've known each other when the project first started. Yeah. And I love that. As when I was younger and I wanted to do something like this, I was by myself trying to do this. And now there's these other people are doing it, and I couldn't be happier, because really there's room for everybody as long as consumers feel like I do and they just want a toy box full of O-ring figures. Yeah. And we really didn't have a lot of that when we were kids. You know, Mego was doing like chips, and you know, there were the black hole figures and the Robotech figures. There were a lot of 3 3/4 O-ring type figures.
Dukes of Hazzard and
Yeah.
A-Team. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Galoob was going crazy. You know, Rimco, Mego. You know, all these different companies were making those, and so there was a sense of that. But now, like, to see everybody doing it like close together, and it's all like each company is saying like, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to do, and everybody's being really respectful about, you know, about what we're doing, and what are you guys cool with this? You know, what do you think of this? And I'm always super super supportive, man. I remember when we first started, and people were like, nobody wants O-ring figures. That's dead. You know,
But see, that's that bullshit narrative that Hasbro promotes, that BS narrative, because they want people in on that 1/12 scale. They're putting everything. Now they have that universal packaging. What you see on the Joes that just got revealed with that, you know, just kind of milk toast, black, blech, kind of bullshit packaging, that's going to be for all their lines. So that box that you see is going to have a Legend figure in it. It's going to have a Black Series figure in it. It's going to have a freaking classified figure in it.
Yeah,
They
it's their
want
packaging
people-
language.
Yeah, they want people on that mindset. They want people to say 1/18 scale's dead, and 4" is dead, and O-ring is dead. That's no. It couldn't be further from the truth. There is no such thing. And then, of course, like, you know, the bros and the brand loyalists are going to say, well, I don't want knockoffs. It's not knockoffs. It's something completely different.
another thing, yeah.
I'll
But I
show
do-
you some freaking knockoffs, man. That stuff's
I
not
do want to
We
answer.
will.
I do want to answer this question though.
Yes, please.
I will give you a couple of tips. Stay off of the message boards.
Oh, yeah.
They are a lot of those people think they know best for you, but you started this line. You know what you want to build. Make what you want to build. Don't let them change your mind. Number 2, there is always going to be a slump in the middle, so have a trick up your sleeve to break that slump. You have to have that slump kills you, because, you know, ours came out of the gate, we funded fast, but that climb up to the next few levels was rough, and it was because, you know, it was because of a lot of things. You know, you don't and I hate saying this, but look at how Marauder does a Kickstarter. They have done multiple successful Kickstarters. They know what they're doing. You just have to have something in the middle to like catch everybody's attention and say like, oh, I didn't know they were doing that. I didn't even know about that. I'm gonna tell people to you know, to jump in, because that's pretty cool. I've always
A shirtless
wanted to do
Marine with a thump gun? Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Where did we
well-
come up with that desire?
Right. So those are the 2 tips I really want to give you. Those are the 2 things that really break you. You will break your spirit during that Kickstarter. Is when you get on there and you see people like, I don't know why they think we don't know this. We know how much it costs. We know this. You know, they're just trying to rip us off. No, nobody's. Troy and I are not getting rich off of this. We're doing this as a hobby because we love it. Yeah. And this is what we spend our spare time doing. We both have full-time jobs. We're both very busy.
That's the same with a lot of these companies that people just don't realize.
And it's not
very, very few of them are dedicated to whatever that line is. Almost all of them are.
I love Fresh Monkey Fiction figures. I cannot get them to come on my show because of that exact reason. They're like, we do this on the side. We're so busy, like we just can't. And I'm like,
right.
That's a fair answer. I'll take that. Okay.
Jobs and families.
Those are the 2 tips for a Kickstarter I would give you. And that third one is really look at how Marauder does it. They have a very, very good way of saying like, we're just fund this, and then we're going to do these things, and you don't know necessarily what those things are.
Right.
And
Which
I think there was a point there where I think we got a little ahead of ourselves and we're showing too far ahead, and then we had people like second guessing, why would you put that one before this one? And it was just like, just fund it, boys. Just fund it, and you'll get it all. You won't
Yeah.
have to choose.
Gonna be worth
Why
it.
would they even do that figure? That has nothing to do with anything. Because we wanted to.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
thought it was cool.
Yeah.
You know, but don't, in that Kickstarter, stay off the message boards. Stay in your Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Pimp it out on your pages. Ask
Yep.
other
communicate. When you send out those updates through Kickstarter, and everybody gets them, they get them in the emails, they go to Kickstarter. You're keeping the engagement, you're keeping people informed. Like, I know as a consumer, as a lover of dollies, that when I back a Kickstarter and I don't hear shit, like, then I start getting irritated. I don't care what you're saying as long as you say something.
You know, we did that fun little thing where we did like 1980s movie posters and turned them into CALLSIGN Longbow characters.
Yeah.
It was
there was like the coloring pages. Remember the coloring pages?
We were wringing our hands every day, like, oh, it went up oh my God, we lost $72. Who backed out? You know, I mean, it becomes an obsession to follow it. And you have to have something to do with your creative juices while you're waiting to find out what you're really going to be making. So we did stuff like that to just keep people engaged and keep the name out there. And that, again, that middle slump starts hitting and you start panicking. Just have a plan. Just have a plan in the middle. Right in the middle of that Kickstarter, just have a plan to pump it up. And you'll do that through marketing. You'll do it through a clever, maybe a release you didn't even plan on. And then one night you're having a jam session with some other idea people and it just pops up. Okay, let's do that. You know, so it's just super important not to get caught up in all of that negativity, because there are people that, I swear, will tell you all day long that they want you to be successful. They will tell you, oh, I want this to happen. But what comes out on a message board just sounds negative, and it breaks you. It really does. And don't let that happen, because you guys have some awesome stuff that a lot of us want a piece of. So don't let that stop you from doing what you're doing, because I'm excited about it. I really am. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's my advice. You asked, and I support your line, and I really, that's all I can tell you.
I got to tell you, that first point that you made, I think that's applicable to everyone making toys, from the big two all the way. Like, just because it's the social media age and all these people can reach out and touch you, and for some reason then they think they're your friends, like, stop listening to that. Get a vision, keep your vision, do your thing. Like this, and again, Hasbro's a real big example. Like, they act, they react again, and then they overreact. It's like, just be consistent. Get a vision, keep a vision, have some kind of a visual language. Don't just spaz out all over the place. But that's the stuff that I can't stand, when people are inconsistent.
Well, I mean, it's a positive and a negative, right? Like, you do want to do what your audience likes, right? You're following your passion, but you do want it to sell. So you do want to hear people, but you don't need to hear everybody. So like, Longbow did several, panels at Joe Fest and stuff, where they talked and people came to them. They made it a point. It was important enough for them to come. And when they came, there were cards there that they filled out. Like, what are you looking for? What would you like to pay? Like, what would drive interest in this project?
Yeah.
And,
but you got to sift
you get some good points. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
we did.
Absolutely
I mean, I took them all home. I made a spreadsheet that listed all the things people wanted, and priority ranked them. So you might have had, out of 50 ballots, you want to call them, you might have had 10 different people say, I want Russians like this, or 10 people that said, you have to do female figures.
Yeah.
You're
going to have that, like, I want them to be able to hold all their accessories in their backpack.
Right.
Yeah.
We had lots of things. We had people that were like, where is the Cobra? And at that point we weren't, we were keeping Steel Web on the down low.
Steel Web is so good.
We didn't want to take away from the fact that the initial reason we started it was because Troy and I both thought that as kids we were cheated out of having Russian villains, Soviet villains. I don't want to say Russians, because Russians aren't villains by necessary means, but at that time the Cold War was going on. We were all very aware of it. You go into the government bookstore and they would have books for Soviet military power, 1984, 1985. I have them. I was a nerd when I was a kid. I'd go to the government bookstore and just buy
I grew up with bomb shelters on like every corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had those too, but they were called desks.
No, in New York, I don't know if it's still like that now, but when I was growing up in New York, you know, the yellow and black fallout shelter signs were on corners of like every building that had a fallout shelter. But,
Right.
Yeah.
No, I remember a lot of that too.
All right. Well, very awesome. Thank you, Patriot Force, for the super chat. And that was a good conversation. Mark Rudolph sends a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Mark, and says, always bringing great content. Thanks, Chad. Thank you, Mark. And I'm just kind of the facilitator, really. It's guys like the people I have on, but thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate it. Just Jeff, $10 super chat. Thanks, Jeff, and says, Chad, it's always interesting to learn, and you and your guests don't disappoint. Yeah, big fan of lifelong learning, my friend. Also, Mikey did nothing wrong.
That's what
Appreciate you both. we know it was a joke, Jeff. Thank you. Love you, Jeff. Thank you very much.
She was my wife.
Jeff was just, yeah, I saw that. He was just at Dallas Vintage Toys. Yep. They had that Desert Apache, and I was almost like, hey, you should get that for me. But I was a little too late. Anyway.
I'm pretty sure we
talked to Jeff has a couple of those.
DFW.
What?
I'm pretty sure we talked to Jeff at DFW last year.
Yeah, because I remember talking to someone in Dallas last year about CALLSIGN Longbow. Very interesting all around. Yep. 100%. Dargoon says, "Go Figure" would be an awesome name for a toy company. It's an awesome name for
a customizer for sure.
Yeah, Adam's channel. If you have not seen Go Figure, please, by all means, go to YouTube and search Go Figure, because Adam is freaking phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
Matthew says the marine marine pattern is trademarked, and they are pretty stingy about giving it up. Correct. Yeah. Those patterns do get trademarked. That is true. Matthew also says, I 3D print diorama accessories for my dollies. Yeah.
That is a perfect thing for that, because you may be wanting to do something that no one else, you may not be able to sell 500 of them.
Yeah.
You know, but boy, just what you want, you know, if you take the time to model it and build it, there will be a couple of people out there that will want a few of them, you know, and you can usually make up your money.
Yeah. And then Patriot Force responded with another super chat. Thank you. You don't have to, but thank you. And says, thank you, gentlemen. Always a great show, Chad. Thank you, sir. And thanks for being here. I always love when you pop in. And I know a lot of us are really looking forward to your toy line. And
good work.
I really, really, really can't wait. And when it comes out, I'm gonna promote the shit out of that. So,
yeah. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Good
Thank
stuff.
you, sir. Hell yeah, brother. Laser Pants says everything is dead.
Everything is dead.
Oh. Well, start over again.
I used to follow Nihilist Arby's on Twitter.
Nihilist Arby's?
Yeah, it was the best. It was the best.
I don't know. I think Ryan, they were discussing clove cigarettes a little too much last night on 3POA. I don't know. Maybe he put on like,
oh man,
a bunch of the Smiths and the Cure, and he's just like,
yeah.
That was a hell of a time, the clove cigarette period. I remember those days.
Yeah, as soon as they started talking about cloves, I was like, all the goth kids smoke cloves. But yeah,
to get my pack of blacks out.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, Ryan. It's good to see you, brother.
Morrissey forever.
Yeah. I hate that new box. I sure hope that's not true. What are we talking about?
The standardized packaging.
Oh yeah. No, that's factual.
That box.
That is factual. That thing is
it's brilliant from a manufacturing, point of view, because you just have one set of dies and just punch them out. And so if you were like a little
Yeah,
if you were a little tiny company
I
just
get
starting out, that would be the way to do it. But it seems like
Definitely.
a real.
But
I love the look of it, but it doesn't have any soul.
Yeah, but when you're having problems injecting like new enthusiasm into your IPs and your toys and kind of your freaking name brand too, right? When you're firing a bunch of people and you can't pay your bills and you outright say, well, we're going to make things more expensive, but we're going to make them cheaper and they're going to be a little shittier. And then they come out with that. It just, a lot of the timing just seems a little tone deaf, a little weird. And then at the same time, I understand this is no longer the your toys have to be maximum competition on the aisles because nobody freaking competes in the aisles anymore.
Right.
Also, they're not on the shelves.
At least not, the IPs that adult collectors are being targeted to purchase. But it looks like ass. I don't know. Chaz the Guru, he made a meme of that Joe box and it was Doc and he put like Kirtland Select under the bottom of it and it was perfect.
Pretty good.
It was funny, man. It was freaking, yeah, whatever. Anyway, yeah. And then Ryan says message board forums are cesspools, especially his tank. His tank is utter dog shit. Yep. That's what I mean. Pedro says nobody wants O-ring figures. In the meanwhile, Skeletron's Roboskull O-ring 3 3/4 figure sold out instantly. That retro wolf looked good.
He's a beauty.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Awesome. Ken's Toys, message boards are for the weak-minded and no-spine crowd. Well, and that's kind of the thing. The internet, as opposed to being used for learning anything you want at your fingertips instantly, has become a place for consensus. And consensus generally revolves around groupthink and hive mind and that kind of thing, where you have to be there to validate others, and others post stuff to be validated. They get like that dopamine rush, like, yay, I got validated. Woo. It's like, I'm not on the internet to validate people. I don't really even like being around people that lockstep.
I will say
opinions as me.
In the world of message boards, custom message boards are pretty hot. I mean, those people really like want to show their stuff and get tips and help out.
That I will agree with. Yeah, absolutely.
But when it comes to new product, it's
bad. No, and I will definitely agree with that. That is a good caveat. Thank you for adding that, because most of the toy Facebook groups that I'm in revolve around customs. Not so much 3D printing, but just customs in general and sharing ideas and things like that. I mean, shit, I made that freaking updated Cobra Missile Command headquarters, and I see them popping up everywhere.
Speaking of customs, I was going to tell you guys that this build that I did right now, the two main products that I used for that build are both on deep clearance prices.
Oh,
all right. This uses a Destro body and parts from this thing right here, which right now is $9.98 on Amazon.
Yep.
So you have to do some Dremel work on the inside of that to make it fit over Destro stuff and cut off his collar. But
easy.
So you can get Destros at Walmart for $15 right now, and you can get that set there for $10. It's a blast to build, and the pegs for the knees are pretty interchangeable, so it's just a matter of pop and swap on a lot of it.
Sweet. Yeah.
But
that's a rarity.
Shout out to the custom people, because I'm kind of friends with some of them. So
yeah. Oh, show. Judge Dredd says the Roboskull can also accommodate 6-inch figures IIRC. Yes.
Correct.
Yep. And that was brilliant. It was smart, right? Because they cast a very wide net because they knew they wanted to get everybody in on it. They'll hold 7-inch figures.
Yeah. So, yeah, they did that. Yeah.
They did, yeah. They were smashing larger figures in there, and it looks good.
V Conley says, as good as the 4-inch look, I can't wait to see the 6-inch ones. They're just gonna look so damn good.
No doubt.
Very excited. There you go. There you go. That's the validation I wanted.
I'm not even gonna say shit because on a freaking Skeletron Facebook page, it was like Skeletron fans or whatever, and Skeletron Labs, and I just said, hey, even though that's cool, I'm not touching it. And then next thing I know, fucking some dude, one of the usual suspects, a fixer, comes in and just starts wrecking on me, and I'm like, dude, like stop. I didn't, whatever. Vache says that's why I appreciate Bobby's updates on Action Force. He lets everyone know from emails in the 3POA podcast, so a lot of questions get answered. Yeah, and he's lucky he has such a big forum to be able to just shotgun news out to people like that, which is rad.
Yeah, I would say Ben is probably one of the best about communication with the audience and constant engagement. I mean, while that Kickstarter, while we were waiting to get stuff, he was constantly posting stuff, just never letting you forget it's coming.
Look at this. Man, I don't want to mess this up. Diffuse King? I'm horrible. I'm literally over a Fallout shelter right now. That's what I'm talking about. Yep. And Shane still has a Fallout shelter sign. Yep.
Good.
Nice.
Danjamin says I'm hella late. Hella. I will see the replay. That's okay, man. Thanks for popping in. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
And then everybody's supporting Patriot Force. Figure Assassin says, Chad, always great shows. Continue your Dolly collection. I sure will. Thanks, brother. Really appreciate it.
More.
And your mad scientist dentist guy there. Very cool. And then Laser Pants is laughing and he says, no Smiths are the cure, but I like both bands. As do I. Always have. Yeah. Yep. Jeff sends a $2 super chat. Thanks, Jeff. With your awesome Major Blood icon there, and says hi. Hi, Jeff. Thanks for being here.
Hi.
Appreciate it. Hi. And then Danjamin says, I just collect bottle caps. Collect what you like.
Right on, brother.
Pet rocks were popular. Like, I mean, just do your thing. You know what I mean? Do your thing. I just want to make sure we're good on the chat so we're going to move on to your slides, John.
Yeah, if you want to. Before we do that, I was going to talk about quickly, for the topic of the show, we were going to talk about starting a toy company or making an action figure, and we were talking about the message boards.
Mm-hmm.
And this topic is something that people don't always think about, but I'm gonna dazzle you with maths. When you think about making a figure and you get a company that says like I can make that for $15 a figure. Okay. It is so $15 a figure, and they say you have to buy 1,000 of them. All right, so now you're at $15,000 just to make the figure. You haven't paid for molds yet, because most of the time molds are not in that cost.
Right.
Molds have a thing in companies called depreciation value. The more you use the mold, obviously the tax write-off is different. Every year it changes, but every year you can produce out of that. Obviously there is a evaluation that's added into that. It's not super complex, but most companies have a formula that they use. So they also tell you that we could do them for $10 each if you make 3,000. All right, so your choice right now, your first choice is 15,000 for 1,000 figures, 30,000 for 3,000 figures.
Right.
All right, so there's $30,000 just to make one SKU, make one figure with accessories, right?
Right.
Molds, which I will talk about when I talk about how Ghost was created. Molds are another thing. Back in the day, you could use something like this, which is what Hasbro kind of did. This is one tree for a Snake Eyes figure.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Tree. They fit every single part on this mold. But there is a lot to that. There's gating of the molds. No factory wants to use a mold that size anymore. They want to use something that's about 6x8 with cavities, and each cavity is like a tic-tac-toe board. you know, where they can do like two hands here and two something here, and they just fill that. They make these little molds about that big that hold two parts in them, and then they tic-tac-toe that thing up, and that's what they make. So you end up, the more parts you have for a figure, the more molds you're going to need. And I will talk about that in a little better detail. So you would get off lucky if you could make an entire action figure with $10,000 worth of molds. If you could just have two molds, $5,000 a piece, so there's $10,000. So if you're going to do the $10 option, and you're going to make 3,000, and really think about that, because when you think about a successful Kickstarter, look at how many backers there were. All right. So a successful Kickstarter might only have 100 backers, but it was successful. Do you think that you're going to be able to sell 2,800 action figures after the Kickstarter's over? Really think about that, because you're sitting on that inventory and that money until you sell that stuff. Right. So you really need to think about that. Then you want to think about, and this is something everybody always forgets, shipping costs. I'm not going to get super into it because there are two phases to that. There is getting the product from the manufacturer to the States, which varies wildly. If you know somebody that's in shipping or something, you might be able to get your product on a container that they're already bringing over. There's a lot to that, but you have to manage it. Someone has to manage that.
Yeah,
right?
it's still juggling logistics.
Right. So I don't want to get into that, because it is logistics, and you may have a 3PL, you may have a third party logistics company helping you and all that. But let's say you went the $10,000 option. Okay, you made 1,000 figures, and you don't want to really ship them in bubble packages. So you're looking at, let's say, $8 a figure to ship them to each one of the individual people. Now people are going to buy bundles, and that's going to change. But just for the sake of trying to figure out what it's going to cost you to start this project,
right?
If you go to the $1,000 or the 1,000 figure run, you're looking at what, $8,000 in just shipping them out to the people that bought them.
Yeah,
that's not included. So when you're thinking I'm going to make them for $15 a piece, remember, $8 of each one of that's going to go to just shipping them out.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume that the $15 includes packaging, and most factories will tell you, like, hey, doing a bubble, doing a box, it all ends up, it's a wash. Most companies will say that if you're going to do a fancy card, or you're going to do a clamshell like the gorgeous clamshells that Strikeforce Alpha did, I mean, that is super cool. That's reusable packaging.
Mm-hmm.
It's a super slick way to do it. But you have to think about that. So there's $8,000 that you're going to have to come up with. So right now, you've got $24,000 just to get started. That's one figure. One figure. When I talk about mold depreciation, and you think about, you're going to make 6 figures, and they're going to share parts, and the message boards are going to go nuts about how you're ripping them off, you still are paying for those molds. You still have to try to get some use out of them. And if you try to do that, then obviously this costs. But remember that manufacturing cost, because people get real hung up on, well, all they need is the molds are only $10,000. But I could be spending $100,000 just on the manufacturing of the figure.
Yeah.
Or figures in this case. So those are things that, like, I created a really detailed spreadsheet that tells me, like, if it costs this much to do this, the mold's this, which mold we're going to use, and all of that for the Kickstarter. That was one of the things that I did just so that I could follow it myself and keep track of money. And I would suggest that anybody thinking about doing this, shop it around. You're going to have to, if you're not a sculptor, and I can sculpt, I can do 3D modeling, I can do a lot of that stuff, but I don't have time. So you end up having to find a sculptor. And you might get lucky, and somebody that's not really done much, they may say, like, oh, yeah, I'll sculpt it for you for $300. Okay. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Maybe you will be happy with it, maybe you won't. But till you go out and you find a good sculptor. Most of the time you want to do some kind of package art, because we all love package art. I mean, we were just having that Hasbro discussion.
Yep.
And that is one of the things about the standardized packaging. We have been asking for file cards for the characters, because some of the characters are really updated, and some are just classic well, I would like the file card to tell me, like, is this the exact same guy, just a modern version of him, or is this a different character? You know what I mean? Like, that's just me. This is my preference. So, you might want to do that. You might want to do a comic book tie-in to get your name out there, to get people to know about it. So you're going to have to work with a comic book company that is willing to share that cost too. Those things all accumulate.
Yeah.
And one thing that people don't think about, trademark, right? Trademarks. That can get you. And if you are doing a book or something like that, where you would do more of an IP, legal costs of those things cost money. Most of the money that Longbow put in before the Kickstarter was to protect us legally, and so that we could do whatever we wanted. If we wanted to do this or we wanted to do that, that was super important to Troy and I both, that we had that legal protection, because the last thing we wanted was somebody to come in and rip off what we were doing.
Yeah.
And
all over your parade.
It could happen. I mean, you say that and you're like, well, I'm protected. Well, yeah, you are. But if somebody tries to take your stuff, now you got to legally fight them.
That's more money.
That's more money.
Yep.
So trademarks and keeping them up. I'm just going to use trademarks in this situation, because maybe it's just the name of your company, or maybe the name of it.
Right.
Incorporating into a small business
are a little different.
Create an LLC is relatively inexpensive, but you do have to maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what state you're in, how much that costs. In Missouri, it's less than $50 to get the approval.
Yeah.
For an LLC. But then you have to structure the company if you have too many people involved.
Mm-hmm.
So think about all of those things. Those are things that people, I don't believe, think about. Now, if you're just going to go do a straight knockoff of something and use another mold and do that, you don't have to think about that stuff. You can not get your name out there and never show your face on the internet so that nobody knows who you are. You can do that. For me, I wanted the satisfaction of knowing that I succeeded in doing something I've wanted to do since I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
So those are things that, when we talk about the design of this character, I want to be clear that there are things that are involved with starting your own company, or starting just to make a random action figure. Jason Shiremeyer of Strike Force Alpha, he's been involved in several toy lines over the last few years, and he's successful. He's driven. He's good at that. And when I talk about shipping, you also think, like, if I don't want to use a 3PL, do I want to just keep this stuff in my garage, or am I going to put it in locked storage? Am I going to have help when it comes to unloading and loading? Is somebody going to be able to help me out? So those are all things that are easy to not think about when all you're concerned about is when you're complaining about how much Hasbro charges for an action figure, or how much Bobby's charging for an action figure, or whatever. There are a lot of things that came to that price point. And also, as an old man myself, it is not 1987 anymore.
What? What do you mean?
Yeah. So gasoline isn't 80 cents a gallon. Milk isn't $1.
Shipping from China goes up and up and up and up.
Yeah. And Chinese production has gotten smarter and smarter about taking advantage of American manufacturing, because they know there's no one here that can do it. Not affordable. You could probably I don't know what I would have to pay somebody to paint eyes and eyebrows on action figures here, but I know I couldn't deliver you a product for less than $30.
Yeah.
A simple O-ring figure, and that's where it gets you. So,
and then all you're going to hear is the masses screaming $30 for an O-ring. There's some questions here for you, John, that I went ahead and starred.
Okay.
But I gotta say, when my band was first starting out, before getting signed and labels and legal and all that stuff, we used to do the poor man's copywriting of our songs. We would take the sheet music and the lyrics and mail it to ourselves, because it's post dated.
Right, and that definitely works.
It does. Yeah.
When you are talking about copyright.
Yes, copyright, not trademark. That's why we were saying
with
that
copyright, if you can get yourself published, or you can get anything like that, you get your foot in the door, and it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
But with trademarks, you got to watch those. Trademarks aren't super expensive, but it takes a long time. The government, you might get lucky. One of the things that I have a trademark for, I I got really lucky with it, and I
Cotton
called
gin?
one
Did you
day.
trademark the cotton gin?
No, I did not. I did not.
Tried to
That
get
patent
Space
was
Force,
not
though.
mine. That patent was not mine. But you start to learn, you start to meet some patent attorneys, and you meet some people like that. And I got really lucky with this trademark situation that I had, and I called, and I happened to get one of the people that analyzes trademarks for the office, and she was super helpful. She helped me rewrite how I had it written so that it could go through. And she was dead on her advice, and it was free. I just happened to call the office and got lucky, but not everybody gets that lucky.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff it takes when you have a job where you're working 8 to 12 hours a day. Your hours don't let you sit on the phone on hold for 40 minutes.
Maybe I should start a toy line. I got some free time these days.
Yeah.
Here we go. Another YouTuber starting a toy line.
YouTuber.
No. Gonzo sends a $2 super chat and says, "Great show. Cheers, gents." Thanks, Gonzo. I really appreciate that, man.
Well,
And thanks for being here, brother. Crusty Old Crow says, "Disintegration was the last epic time I enjoyed The Cure. Underrated. It's a good album." Yeah. And then here's a question. Oh, man. Diffuse King? Diffuse King. I don't. Please correct me.
sounds good.
Yeah, I know.
But he
Correct.
could be Diffuse King, like he's the king of the Foo Fighter fans. I don't know. You gotta help us, man. We gotta know how to do it.
It could
Yeah, we need a. But I will answer your question.
Yes. So why do they make a mold for one figure with 10 weapons on it versus making the same size mold with 40 weapons? Yeah.
Okay. This is where Troy and I excel, because we are both. I'm a manufacturing person, and he is always. Troy wants to understand every aspect of the things we do, so he gets deep into it. Most of the time, the reason that somebody does that, they make stuff for one figure, is because they are not planning ahead. When I talk about how we designed Ghost, I'm going to talk about things that we shared with the pilot, the Wolf Trooper, and how that came about. I'm going to talk about that because that mold supports two figures. And how you get to that point, you have to. I'm going to talk about the materials that are required and why you might have to split a mold out for a different material. But that is why they do that. And a lot of times, and this is a funny topic here. Mikey and I have talked about this thousands of times. I'm so sorry, son. But the reason that in classified, the reason that Hasbro allows a company like Target to make a figure, and they make it in an alternate scheme that is not mainstream, is because a lot of the time they go in with Walmart or they go in with Target, and Target says, "We'll pay for the tooling cost."
Yep.
So we can have that figure. So the first figure, they're only thinking about those 4 figures that Target's going to release. So if there's any mold sharing, any part sharing, they'll try to do that. But most of the time they don't do that because they have no idea what the production numbers are going to be. So if I put 40 weapons on that tree, I may be sitting on tubs of weapons. A figure got canceled that we thought we were going to make. So you have tubs of weapons you're not even going to use now unless you decide to release that figure later. So a lot of it is expedition. It's quicker to build small runs of things. But the main reason is, for whatever reason, a company decides to compartmentalize that mold to just do one thing. And with the way that they key the molds where they can put the multiple pieces in there, there is sometimes a possibility of being able to just change those out. But the factory really likes to have set pieces where these 6 always go together, or these 4 always go together. Just so that they can track them, because imagine, and I will talk about this in a little bit, the amount of parts that it takes to build an O-ring figure. You got to think about that. You got to think about, am I going to run this waist and leg combination by itself?
Right. Because
modern figures, they split those parts up more modular so that they could do the chest by itself, or 4 chests on a mold, or a bunch of arms on a mold, because they're going to do everything modular. The challenge becomes, what color do you mold that in? Do you go ahead and run it in black and then for one figure is going to be black, one's going to be red, one's going to be white. Back in the day when they were doing those big molds, they would gate them to where they could say, okay, we're going to run this side in red and this side in gray. Now they don't want to do that. You know, now they want to run efficiently and be able to build faster. So they could build those molds with just 10 guns in it. They could just run that over and over and over. And because it has 10 guns in it, and maybe half of them are just duplicates of that, they're going to build 10,000 of those figures. They only have to run that mold 5,000 times.
Cool. All right.
So it's all about the economy and expansion of what you're building and how you're going to build it.
So at the same time, you kind of answered Crusty Old Crow's question about universal molds. So 2 for the price of 1. There you go. Awesome.
But I will say that most molds, when you are, especially if you're a corporation of any kind, and you are using tax breaks or tax credits on your molds, depreciation is almost always involved. Just like if you're an office company and you bought a printer, you bought a $4,000 printer, every year you get less and less of a discount on that because of depreciation.
Gotcha.
So
cool. Suka says, woo, just made it. I definitely want to be here for this. Thanks for being here, my friend. And let me know about that thing tomorrow. Know what I mean?
Ooh.
He found a bunch of complete Night Force stuff. So I asked him about something in particular. We're gonna readdress that tomorrow. And then Crusty Old Crow is asking, can we assume that getting chains to sell your figures is a financial hit one can't consider without investors? Is the market stacked against new designers?
Yes. And I'll give you an example that has nothing to do with toys. A few years ago, Walmart was buying green beans from basically a pretty small company. That's all they did was green beans. They went in and said, hey, we're going to sell this. We want you guys to sell this for 76 cents a can or whatever. Well, I can't remember the exact number now. Walmart starts selling it for 76 cents a can, and then they come back, refuse an order, and say, we only want to pay 50 cents a can for them. We only want to pay to where our markup's going to be 50 cents. You guys eat it.
Right.
They bankrupted that company because that company put all of their eggs in the basket that Walmart was going to sell their product. You know, and I don't want to get on a run about corporations and all that because I work for a corporation, but
yeah, I did too.
Honestly, there is a reason that some chains survive and some don't. And Walmart is an expert. I'm picking on Walmart here, but Walmart is an expert on getting every single cent out of their people. Yeah, out of their vendors. They will rake them over the coals.
For the ma'am. Sorry.
They will ask for deep discounts. When you hear about those Walmart rollbacks, think about the guy that is making that electric blanket is going to take a hit for the next quarter.
Yeah. His
profit margins just shrunk by, 50%. So you could save $2.
Makes good sense. Laser Pants says, John, this is a lot of great insight into the toy manufacturing process. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome. I wanted to do this show just so that I could talk about some of this stuff because there is so much disinformation out there and so many people that have never done anything like this that are talking as experts. I'm not an expert. I'm involved in several toy lines, so I've been involved in several aspects of things going wrong or things going better than we thought, or process improvements on the fly, and it's just things that people don't think about. And I've always been a big proponent of the toy box mentality, and everybody should be able to make what they want if they can find a way to fund it. Everybody should be able to make what they want. There shouldn't be just one person making everything. Because we are all different. We all have slightly different tastes, and there's going to be some things that I don't want from this line, but they may have a couple other things I do. Same with over here, and it just opens up possibilities. And I want everybody to understand that you can do this if you are willing to put in the work to do it.
And I love that sentimentality because the two big toy companies that the big two, or say Disney, right, which owns all these brands under their, big, massive mouse umbrella. It's not really working out that great, so I like to have options. It's a
Well,
good
there's
thing to have.
nothing to drive innovation. There's nothing to drive competition. I mean,
No, it just becomes
why
safe. What's safe?
why
Do
why
this.
Teddy Roosevelt was doing what he was doing. There's got to be open market. If it's going to be consumerism and capitalism, then we all have to have a shot.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, if you have all of the major boy brand lines,
Mhm.
then you're just competing against yourself. I mean, how is that not going to end up as a loss?
It becomes an echo chamber because you believe that
it does.
you are the only one out there doing it, that you have all of the answers, and no one is allowed to question.
You know what? I'm gonna bounce around in some of these starred comments because there's one that really follows up with what we're talking about based on Ryan's super awesome comment.
Thanks, Ryan.
Speaking of echo chamber, so Crusty Old Crow is kind of asking, in the opinion of the panel, who's writing the new G.I. Joe comics more, Hasbro or Skybound? I feel like I'm reading a possible classified Wish catalog when I read it now.
Well, lots of interviews over the past with Larry Hama.
That's not Larry.
I know. I'm saying this is
Yeah.
a context,
Tracking.
right? Larry was very adamant that there were things that Hasbro would shoot over there and say, you have to figure out how to insert this in the comic.
The
And there were things-
Pogo was a
Pogo,
classic
yep.
example of that. You
Pogo.
have to put this in there. But
Yeah.
he was very adept at finding ways to meet their demands, but at the same time be like, no, this is dumb. Yeah.
He
Sorry,
was.
I
So,
don't work
so
at CD.
when you think today, if you are fortunate enough to still be in the industry after some of the purges over the last 5 years,
Yeah.
if you're still in the industry, and you have a chance to write a comic that you really want to write, or you just want a job, you're going to do whatever the corporate sponsor tells you to do. You're going to insert the characters and the costumes that they tell you to use. And G.I. Joe, in the 80s was really good about that. I mean, there were some like Sergeant Slaughter that they just refused to use the figure style and put him in combat BDUs or fatigues.
Right.
And and that was fine. It really didn't take away from it. I still wanted Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a massive difference between Sunbow and Marvel. Massive difference.
But I don't totally feel like Skybound isn't writing the comics. I feel like they're being guided, and because of the lessons learned in A Real American Hero, there are parts of Hasbro that are like, we need to control this because this is the only narrative we have. We don't have a cartoon. We don't have a game that anybody wants to play.
Which is funny because they're actually pretty happy that there's no dedicated media aside from comics for G.I. Joe right now.
Right.
And maybe that does coincide with controlling that narrative.
Well, that goes into though what you said about massive layoffs, right? Like I don't have to hire 5 teams to run G.I. Joe. I can hire a group that says like, you guys make sure the comics are a commercial for the toys. Yeah, and I don't know that for sure. I'm just totally guessing, but I would say that it has a lot to do with that. But
and you can see the way that it progressed because they started talking about Dark Energon and you would hear people saying it and I'm like, where the hell is this coming from? Because I don't see this being put out there anywhere. And then boop, here comes the comics and they're the Dark Energon universe. It's like the whole Skybound what if parallel. And I'm like, well, that's funny. Yeah.
I also think that Hasbro is banking on a long game here.
Hope so.
Yeah, I really do, with the movie universe and everything else and the hints that they had in the last Transformers movie. Yeah, take that how you want. But
I was talking more about Snake Eyes. Yeah.
But
the Michael Kelly scene at the end of Rise of the Beasts, the way that he described G.I. Joe, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give that a shot.
Yeah, I watched that movie. I remember telling Mikey, like, dude, I watched that new Transformers movie. It's kind of cool. I've had trouble with the last few of them.
Just the way he described G.I. Joe, and I was like, okay.
And I actually like that thought of of introducing GI Joe like that, because then the sci-fi aspect fits. You can have straight up military dudes, but you can have a guy with an experimental.
Yeah, he had a freaking Cybertronian fighter down in that.
Right.
Right. I don't think that's the pit, but he did have a Cybertronian fighter down there, and I was like, oh, look it. Yeah, cool.
So I believe that Hasbro is they're playing a long game here, longer than we probably think, which for a lot of us, we can't believe that's even would happen.
Yeah.
But I think that they're trying to do something here, and they're going to like surprise everybody with it. Or it's going to fail next year.
They need Bonaventura. They need to fire that dude into the sun if they want to, have a chance, because that guy sucks. Anyway, Jason Fitz, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And since I got a lot of free time, I'm going to start a toy line, and we're going to call it It's Dolly's. And one of the first It's Dolly's action figures is going to be the It's Chad action goat.
I was waiting for that.
Thanks, Mikey. You were standing by with that?
I was waiting for that. I was like, oh, good, he started.
Let me know in the chat if you want some It's Dolly's action goats. It's cool. We'll get there. And you did kind of throw this up, Mikey, but it is foos. So like foosball. So I was foosball player in a past life. You got it spot on. Thanks, brother. Nice. And
hey, look at that.
Oh, the ma'am, my wife, sends a $2 super chat, and she's the best. So thank you, ma'am. I love you very much. And cool. I'm gonna pull up your slideshow, John.
Okay.
So we can
let's run through it.
Ooh. Any idea how long the Bonaventura contract lasts? Forever.
Apparently forever.
I don't know. I don't know. Sorry. In the age of streaming, i.e., no Saturday morning cartoons, is a current new cartoon media even necessary? So long as old media is accessible, I don't see new media absolutely necessary. I guess I could.
It depends on what you want to sell.
Yeah, that's
who you want to sell it to.
True,
right?
But there's also something to be said about kind of re-injecting awareness into it, because I mean, look what Resolute did. Resolute did a lot of stuff right. It really did, because you could watch Resolute and think, oh, well, this is just a continuation of basically season 2 of the Sunbow cartoon without that movie thing in there, right? Kind of treated as like an Elseworlds, and they sprinkled in stuff from the comics where you can tell through the dialogue, which was very well written, very mature, that Scarlet had a relationship with Snake Eyes, but now she's got some love triangle with Duke. So they got the Sunbow aspect in there. They got the Marvel Comics aspect in there. They knew that a lot of people didn't like Bazooka. So like wink, nudge, they kind of killed him off camera, so they did a lot of stuff right with Resolute, but to keep my bias out of it. Yeah, I guess I kind of agree with Jeremy.
I mean, for me, when I was a kid, like
Masters of the Universe, having media help them push toys. Sorry,
it did. And for me, when I was a kid, like I didn't care much for the G.I. Joe cartoon. I read the comics, but what always sold me on buying the toys was the 30-second spots with the badass animation, and and they would say, "Hey, this comic is coming out," but they always showed the toys that were available at the time, the Sky Striker or the Claw or whatever. Those commercials influenced me more than any other media on what toys to buy. And so, 30, 45-second commercial that's just badass animation, just all kinds of stuff going on, man, I'd be all over that.
And I gotta say, when they came out with the trailer for that new side-scrolling Joe game, that Revenge of Cobra, that trailer, the animation in that trailer is amazing. And I was like, if you had some kind of, I mean, they don't even have toy commercials anymore, but just something with like that kind of animation and just like everybody's kicking ass, I just thought that would pump some freaking people up to go buy.
I think it would. I mean, you could do it on Reels, you could do a YouTube channel, and there's lots of ways you could do that, and just
Yeah.
pump a 30-second spot.
Sure. Yeah. But I'm biased. I'll admit it. I don't want to be a hypocrite, but my bias says that I want to see media for GI Joe. I mean, like I'm talking GI Joe. I want to see media for it. I think that there's ways that they could do it, especially now with the availability of, they got Paramount Plus, they got streaming services. They could do something. I don't know, whatever. But
Yeah.
Kiwi's here. Good to see you, Kiwi.
Hey, Kiwi.
Totally understandable, man. Real life comes first. Absolutely. But it's good to see you here. And then Anthony Rosario, same for you. It's cool that you're late, but thanks for coming and hanging out. And Anthony says Mikey for president.
You got a pitch?
I don't need a pitch. I'm the best there is.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
He's a hoot at reunions, folks.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
And something about that cartoon stuff too. I mean, DC does awesome work with DC cartoons, and you can't tell me that's to sell action figures. It's just to make an interesting cartoon.
Those
most of
animated
them don't
DC
even
movies,
follow a timeline. They're just, here's this story. That's all I want from GI Joe.
But the thing about
it caused me to go buy a McFarlane figure, but
the thing though about the shorts, right? That I want to point out is there was no story, there was no vocalization, there was no speaking. It was all, oh my God, if you had that, you could do this scene. This just looks so cool. I need that toy. I'll come up with my cheesy dialogue. I don't need somebody to tell me that Snake Eyes and Scarlet are together. I'm really out there a little bit, and I think Snake Eyes and Rock and Roll had a thing. Yeah, I don't know, but let me decide how to play with my toys.
Alpine and Bazooka, you know it. No, totally, I get it. And Ubats, what's up, Rocco? Good to see you, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, smash that like button.
Yeah, I gotta give Rocco to Ubats. It's good to see you, man. How do you feel about the modified Hooded Cobra Commander image? I mean, I threw up several polls, so I know how a lot of people feel, but not everybody's the same.
I don't know.
You're talking about like the one with the balaclava, the new version.
The new, yeah,
it's I
know, bro. I know.
I think it sucks ass. I don't know.
I
honestly don't care. I don't care really. I could take it or leave it. It is
what it is.
Yeah, I mean that's how I feel about it.
Yeah. Whatever. It just kind of is what it is. Crusty Old Crow says there was a good effort at making Joe more stylish and dark and resolute. Damn straight. I love the design of that Cobra Commander. I will die on that hill every day. That is my.
I love the Destro and Baroness too. I think those are
they look
really awesome look for them.
They look very, very Gestapo. You know what I'm saying?
They do.
Yeah. But the Baroness with that piping and the gray kind of an overcoat,
really good.
Really good. Hey, Mikey, look who's here.
Scoob.
Hi,
hey,
Scoob,
buddy.
Love you, dude. Good to see you.
Miss you, man. See you soon.
Judge Dreads. So do adults buy toys based on media, or is that kids? I mean, my argument, and we all have opinions and they vary. My argument is going to be that adults buy toys based on nostalgia because that's what all of our toys are aimed at.
True, but media can push that nostalgia too. Like if they did a really, really good GI Joe movie, you'd be like, "Damn, yeah, I do remember."
I'll write them a good GI Joe movie in like 5 days. 5 days.
Here's the thing: you don't have to because Hama did it already.
He did.
Comic book.
Yeah, sure. Dude,
it's all there. Just follow it.
Take pieces of issue 26 and 27, kind of interweave them. Batman Begins style with issue 1, maybe a little bit of issue 3 at the end to get Scarlet out of the pit, and then you end it with that freaking panel That one page from issue 21, C-130, Snake Eyes hitting the button and going out. That's how you end it. Just like that.
Dad,
Batman
how many
Begins
times
style.
have you said that's how the movie should end?
Yep, that's it.
How many
Yep.
times have you told me?
Chad, we got to talk at DFW. I got the opening sequence for you.
Let's do it. Yeah, all about it. Okay.
That's right, because we were talking about doing a storyboard and stuff for it. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
Mikey and I talked about doing a show where I just talked about how I would save it from what they have right now, but be pure G.I. Joe straight off a file card. No speculation, just how to start it to tie it all back together.
Yep, I love it. I love it. I love it. I think Jason is saying, I think any of us could write a good G.I. Joe movie in a day. Because like Mikey said, I'll just be like, oh, let me get a couple of issues and yep, done.
Yeah.
Yep. Crucio Crow says G.I. Joe needs a slow burn thriller series with character-driven stories instead of Cobra plots from a candy bowl. I'm in. End state. Let's go. I've also always argued, and Mikey's going to say, you say this all the time too. Do a show like The Unit where it's based on your operating environment. You have like 4 or 5 core characters. So, I mean, right off the cuff, Scarlet, Snake Eyes, because, you know, G.I. Jesus, you got to have him. Duke, Hawk. Maybe Duke and Hawk aren't always like out conducting the missions, but, you know, they could be back at the pit, etc. And we go to Alaska and guess who's there? And then we go somewhere tropical. Guess who's there? And so on and so forth, right? New vehicles, new characters. It's all based on your operating environment. Done. Done. Keep it small. Keep it intimate. Build those characters.
And like any good series, like Hammer did, you have a thread that starts going through the episodes.
Yep.
Where they, you know, halfway through the season, something happens that changes everything you thought was going on. And The Unit did that, right? When they split them up, right? You know, The Unit is, to me, one of the perfect television shows.
Because they think like, oh, well, my husband works for this department and they like test equipment. And they're like, no. No. Oh, you're in Fort Wadsworth? Oh, yeah. You think your husband works for the Chaplain's Motor Pool? No. Yeah. Perfect. It's freaking perfect.
Yeah, and then I mean, you can get your flashback episodes, like when they do that episode about him going through the green beret stuff, and you could have the Snake Eyes origin in there, and it could be Tommy and Lonzo, you know, and that whole story just in little flashbacks. I don't need it straight from the top. I don't need that.
Yep, you could have your whole alert team. You could make it a period piece. If you don't make it a period piece, it doesn't have to be Nam. It could be Afghan. It could be Iraq.
Easily updatable.
You got a million conflicts. You could, I mean, Kosovo, whatever. Just freaking pick one. Who cares?
Right.
Sure.
Okay.
Make one up. I mean, if you want to stay away from real world politics,
make
one up.
But
remember that time the G.I. Joe
nations was in the freaking Marvel run.
Yeah.
Dude, I tie in Cobra Island. What up? Anyway, let's get to this.
Let's do this.
Let's do this. We're doing
all
it.
right.
Here we go.
So from the very beginning, we knew we wanted a character that was going to be, at first we kind of played with the name Chameleon. We wanted a character that was just a total badass. We went through a lot of different iterations of it. These are my sketches. Troy did iterations too. He did a 12-panel thing. We didn't want to show it because some of the ideas from that may end up in the line anyway. But this is what we had. We were very torn on what to do with this character. We came up with the name Kasumi, which means like ghost in the mist or something like that. That's where the code name Ghost comes from. The writing on his file card is in Japanese. That's the loose translation. That happened later, but here we were just trying to play with this chameleon character. We said that somehow he would use mirrors or something like that to make himself disappear. Basically kind of a predator kind of feel. So this was where he started. So we just flip to the next slide here. Troy calls me one day. He's talking to Ben over at Skilletron, and they want me to draw a pilot. We talked about a pilot. I did some sketches for the pilot, which I will talk about later, that eventually became the Wolf pilot. But I did these 3 versions of what Ghost could look like, and would share tooling with that pilot. So these were the original sketches for Ghost. We obviously, you can tell that we chose, if you go to the next slide, we did said, okay, John, what would it look like? So we like this one. This is the one that I did the first sketch of. This was basically the first sketch of Ghost. In the next one, I believe that we have, that's the glamour shot. Okay, so we had a meeting with the team, and we said, what do we want? What do we don't want? Troy wanted
look at the red pen. There it is.
Yeah, Troy goes over it with the red pen, says, hey, we want to do this, we want to do that.
It's the Kirk Bazigian special.
Yep.
Why is your email stuck up there, Michael?
I don't know.
Sorry, go ahead.
The thing with Ghost, and the reason he is one of my favorite characters, is because this character was co-developed by both of us. When we first started this, Troy had a whole bunch of ideas for characters. I had ideas for characters, but this was the one that really showed both of us how our strengths work together, and how we could make an action figure really working together with the guidance of the Skeletron team, because they were also wanting a figure out of this same mold. So in the next picture, I believe Troy said, this is a helmet that I had drawn early on, and I think we should incorporate it.
Do you want to hit this question that I threw up on the screen?
So it's a military line. Call sign Longbow.
Yeah.
Call sign Longbow is a military line. It is set during the Cold War.
Yeah.
The main thing that Troy and I wanted to do when we started this line was to have Soviet Union troops as the villains. As the story goes on, the comic book will have the Soviets and the Americans going against each other, explain how both the hunt team for the Soviets and Longbow become kind of entangled. And slowly we start introducing this new technologically advanced other faction. And it is a total mystery, but the first character that we will really implement is Ghost. And that will start this whole entire investigation where they're trying to figure out who is this guy? How is he so fast? How come nobody ever sees him?
Right.
So Troy says, I want to do something like this. And I said, okay, I have an idea where I would like to incorporate kind of a spider motif to the helmet, where he has these little things around his helmet that allow him to see all the way around him. So if we go to the next shot is of the updated glamour shot. So we switch to the next slide.
Thomas says he used to go to Fort Wadsworth to sled down under the Verrazano Bridge. Hell yeah, dude. That's what I'm talking about. I'm a Brooklyn kid myself, but I totally get you. That's rad. Sorry.
That's all right.
Gotta love the chat, right?
All right. So this is him with the helmet. This is kind of the final version. At least this is what Troy decided to start doing, the sculpt turnarounds. The turnarounds that you see very common in this sort of thing. You do a turnaround so that you can hand it over to a sculptor, and you can. I think it's in the next. Oh, before we did that, we just wanted to do some color studies. That was next.
Oh yeah.
So we were looking at different ways we could do it.
So good.
Obviously, we went with B because that is Steel Web's motif is a purple color.
Yep.
We wanted that because Cobra is predominantly red and blue. They did have some purple there towards the end.
Yeah.
We didn't want to totally copy Cobra.
Yeah. But really, you're looking at like Mamba, Techno Viper, like not a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And Techno Viper is a good example because that kind of gave us a techno character. And we wanted to kind of feel that vibe. Like, this guy is very technologically advanced. He's got a lot of cool stuff.
Here's a question. Will there be a commissar villain character? Are you working with any specific historical influences or more alternative sci-fi?
What there is an event that will happen in the comic book that will tell you why this world is slightly different than ours.
Awesome.
In the first few issues, in the first of the story, it is very much like just 1986, 1987. These guys are special forces unit that have been put together. We talked about in the Kickstarter, there was an adapt trooper, and that is like a version of the future soldier or whatever it was, a soldier 2000 or whatever. When I was a kid, I used to subscribe to all kinds of military magazines, and they would always have this is the soldier of the future. And it doesn't look anything like what we have now, but it was a soldier of the future. So adapt is kind of a version of that. But Steel Web, this was the first character. We all landed on B. So Troy did a color render over my sketch to say this is what he's going to look like. And that's the next one here, maybe. Thanks, Pete. We think so. And it's a color complete separation from Longbow unit being green and the Russian unit being red or tan. This way we have these guys are strikingly different.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I knew somebody was going to do it. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
The first issue, this was the render that we used. We sent this to our artist to do, just promotional shots. I do a lot of sketches behind the scenes, and Troy cleans them up. He does like the fancier design style, and then we hand those off and let a comic book artist do a version of it for us to use for promotional materials until all the other stuff happens. So this is just an early step in the process.
Yeah.
And now Troy will take this drawing and a bunch of input drawings and discussions back and forth, and in the next slide will show the turnaround.
I could just stare at that picture all day.
So this is what a turnaround looks like. It is literally you see this in a lot of old G.I. Joe art that people are getting and showing now. The declassified booth always has these. So this is yes, Rachel, it could.
You know what's funny about Rachel's comment? Not to knock off your flow, but when I had Ron Rudat on, shameless plug, he was talking about how he pushed really hard to have a Ronald Reagan figure in A Real American Hero early on. You're talking like 83, 84, because he wanted to show that they had a commander-in-chief, that they answered directly to the president.
Right.
And in G.I. Joe Retaliation, you see they kind of took that mindset that, they answered directly to the commander-in-chief.
That's right.
Kind of like the whole Area 51, you know what I mean? Like, who really knows what's going on with this elite force? Like, the president knows.
The president knows.
Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to throw that up because
somebody did ask. Yeah, there is a digital version of the comic on cslongbow.com for comic book number 1. You can read that.
Oh yeah, sorry. Right there.
You can order the comics. They are available on the pre-order site. So if you go to cslongbow.com, there'll be a thing there that says pre-order store is open. The comics are available right now. We are working on issues 2 and 3 kind of succinctly so that we can have like a story for the next 2 things. The Gipper, yes.
Yeah, call sign the Gipper. Okay, anyway.
So Troy does these turnarounds to send to the sculptor, and then he goes ahead, because we know the colors, he goes ahead and does what's called a deco sheet, and the next slide is the deco sheet. The deco sheet shows the factory how we want it painted.
That is correct, Shane. Cool.
So right now everything is still on paper.
I'm going to blow this up a little and then just kind of slide around the page.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
We've redacted anything that is like a
right
here, so it's fine to show this. But this is where we also, Troy calculates the cost of painting it by telling how many paint apps are on that.
Right.
Paint operations are done on each section.
Yeah, and then there's your color
sheet.
there.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome.
So the next picture, this is the newest color sheet, but so the next picture, remember, everything is being developed. We wanted to have this invisibility shield that he has the ability to be invisible, so it has lines in it, much like an old lenticular bookmark where you would turn it and it would change colors. Magicians use them to hide cards in their palm.
And last time you were on, we talked a lot about this shield and all the attention you guys put into it.
So we looked at several different versions of it, ended up kind of coming up with a different thing. I was in a hotel one night and Troy asked me, like, what's his knife look like? And the next slide shows, like, I just did like quick sketches and said, I think it looks like this.
Crusty Old Crow, thank you very much for that comment, man. I really appreciate that. Yep. And there it is.
So this did go through some design changes, but that was kind of the basic idea. The idea is that he can flip that around and do short stabs, or he can do claw marks, because part of his mystique is that people believe he is a monster. People believe he is a creature in the jungle.
Right.
Literally a ghost in the mist. And so people are convinced of it because they can't ever see him. He moves fast. He cuts, and he also has a weapon to get out of situations when he does meet a military force. But for the most part, he is a quick assassin.
Awesome. Hey, Mikey, you see this?
Yes.
We will talk about who the paint master is coming up.
Any designer mock-ups for Catherine Hughes?
It is coming, yes.
Hey,
it has been a topic of conversation lately. We definitely want to do female figures. So this is the backpack. The backpack had to be modular. His little mines are foot peg sized, so that you could snap them onto the foot peg of a vehicle, so they would stick.
See, that's freaking awesome. Just that kind of like toyetic attention to detail.
Yeah. His knife, his blade does snap into the backpack, and his shield snaps into the backpack. So all that had to be designed.
Awesome.
And that was all early. The next slide is a quick view of the sculpt and all of the accessories.
Damn, that's so good.
And that figure at this point is sculpted, and it is ready to make 3D prints of. So our buddy over at Rage and Spoon, he in the next slide shows his first prototype that he cast in black, wasn't it, Mikey?
Yep.
You mean yes, sir?
I don't mean that.
So he cranks out a few of these and sends them to the Longbow or Grindstone paint maestro, who goes by the name of JMK Works.
Weird. That's weird.
The next slide is Mikey's paint master.
Oh yeah, buddy.
Zoom in on that. It's a beauty.
Blow this sucker up.
Mainly, this was made so that, number one, we could show the figure. Number two, that we could actually see if the colors that we had chosen looked like we wanted them to together.
They did not.
Yeah, we ended up making some changes. But I do want to say here that our factory guy made the comment that these looked better than paint masters that he had ever seen from a real American hero.
Because Mikey's the shit.
And I don't want you guys to think I made that up. I didn't make that up just because he's my kid, but
I would.
The work he does is exceptional. Mikey is a very good painter. He is a hell of a customizer. I am super proud of that, and I'm thrilled that he and I get to work together on this project. So I got to plug him in here. If you guys have custom ideas or something you want, Mikey is the guy. He's doing a lot of work with some other companies now.
That's right. Perfect.
And it is for a dad that used to turn the entire backyard into a G.I. Joe playground.
Yeah.
pretty awesome. Pretty
Yeah,
awesome working with him on this.
it's like sometimes you gotta like sit back and think like I'm freaking living it, and you're doing it with your kid, which is awesome.
It is awesome. So now I want to talk about molds. I said I would talk about it, and this is something that a lot of people don't know. I showed that picture of the snake eye sprue earlier. The sprue is, for anybody that doesn't know, on a mold, the sprue is what travels. If you've ever built models, you know what this is. There are things redacted here because, well, they're trade secrets, and I don't want to tell you.
Yeah.
But you can see this is the main part mold, and just like the original GI Joes, they were made out of a version of ABS, which is acrylamide butadiene styrene plastic is what ABS stands for.
It's not
over
all-wheel
the
braking
years,
system.
do what?
It's not all-wheel braking system.
It is when it's a light that comes on in your car.
Give me 1 sec. Mython the Python, what's up, brother? Says, hey, fellas and Chad. So that's you guys and then me. Popping in on my break at work. I'll catch the replay later tonight when I get home. Look forward to getting these figures in hand. President Mikey making action figures great again.
That's the goal, baby. That's the goal.
We're looking forward to getting them in your hands. Believe me.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Sorry, I just wanted to hit that. Anyway.
That's all right. That's all right. So today, plastics have changed tremendously since the 1980s. So what was key to us was to find a way to build them to where they felt original, but had the technological advances to take advantage of for a new figure. So we split the molds up to where the main figure is done with ABS. The next is the weapons mold. This is the shared tool. This is hanging on my wall.
Hell yeah.
This is the shared tool. We know this is being done in different versions of clear so that the sword can glow in the dark when necessary. The shield is clear when it's for ghost. But they run this mold and they just run the hell out of it, and we have pieces for both figures. So that is also the same ABS as the figure, which is more rigid than original, but we kind of wanted that. We wanted that. We didn't want the flex issue to affect our weapons, and it was super important that to do crystal clear, you really had to do ABS. So that's what we end up with here. Next is a trick of the trade. The third mold is. This is just the layout because we didn't have a sprue handy to take a picture of. So this is made out of, well, this one's, I got them mixed up here. This is PVC, and everybody's very familiar with PVC. PVC is what most modern figures are made from, what I would call the modern 4-inch lines. We wanted more head detail when we needed it, but we still wanted them to feel like you had an original action figure. So we picked and choose what parts are going to be PVC very carefully because we still want it to feel like an original figure. We didn't want the helmets to be as soft as like Countdown and some of those characters, but we wanted it to be soft enough to capture all the detail. And the Wolf Pilot's helmet is an example of that. If you have one in hand, you know that.
Yep.
What is the next slide here?
I like that note there. These side pegs must match vintage figure stand peg.
Yeah.
That kind of coincides with what you were saying about like go in the toy box with your ARAH stuff. Very cool. Next slide. Oh, hello.
Oh, go back one, Chad. I think we.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. There should be one that shows elbows and O-rings, and we might have missed it. Okay, so what I did want to say on that is the shoulder rings and the elbow joints, because of the
well, child standards they're bullshit.
Sorry.
That's right. So elbows especially get a lot of issues with breakage. The original figures, they made them basically out of the same material as the figure.
Yep.
The factory recommended that we make them out of polyoxymethylene, which is POM. It is a better version of what ABS is. It is hard, but it can't hold detail like ABS does. So we make those parts because they get more stress than anything else. we make those parts on their own mold. So we basically have an entire mold of just shoulder rings and elbows.
Freaking awesome.
And that way we can use that same mold or a duplicate of that mold all through the line.
Yeah.
So that is one of those things, like somebody earlier talked about, what about a mold that doesn't, that gets used everywhere? Well, the elbows and the shoulder rings are used everywhere. So you just have to, it's, the expansion of production and how you want to build the product.
Right. Samantha, yes. She's a service dog, so yeah, she's coming. She will be there.
So that was, I wanted to talk about molds. We can be here for a minute, but I wanted to talk about molds because a lot of people don't understand, like, well, it should just be on one mold like Hasbro used to do. That's fine for 1980. All right. So I would use the telephone as an example. When they made that Snake Eyes sprue, I was still dialing on a rotary phone. And now I literally have Dick Tracy's watch on my wrist.
Yeah,
so,
you have more computing power than the Apollo spacecraft. So
yeah, and I love when I was a kid, in accounting class, they would say like, "Well, you're not gonna have a calculator in your pocket." Bet me.
Noise.
So after the precarious mold decisions, you go into card art. So I do another sketch of the pose that we want for Ghost. At that point, when I did the sketch, we didn't know for sure the shape of the shield. Troy adds that in, sends it over to Doug Hart, the maestro that did the art for a lot of G.I. Joe, Stargate.
Doug freaking Hart. Yeah.
Air Raiders. Doug is an incredibly good artist. And
he's a legend. Yeah.
He's awesome. So we send that over, and in the next one, Doug does his thing, and Troy does what's called a presentation panel.
Blam!
And that is what, kind of the card art looks like. We will, at this point, while this is going on, we start laying out the card layout, how the card's going to look, add the flame effect that we have chosen. And the final slide that I have is the card art. I'm not sure how many people have seen this, but
there's still 3 more slides, so maybe the
well, they're not for this. They're for
yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So this is guys. This is pretty much what the card art's going to look like. Much like Alley Viper, we have the shield overlaps the bubble. So behind the bubble, the shield will be back there. But I don't know how many people have seen this. But Troy and I thought it'd be cool to show it as a bonus for anybody that had not seen this yet. That is our flame effect. That is the flame effect we're going with. We wanted something. We didn't want to take, the original. We wanted to do something that still felt good, still felt real. And if you have a wolf trooper, you know how this feels and looks. It'll be a similar bubble. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
How about that?
There's the look.
Wow. Weird.
So strange.
Yeah.
Shane, good to see you, man.
So that is that. What will happen now is we're waiting for the final paint samples back from the factory. Yes, the mold is done because it was the Wolf Trooper. It is the same mold, and for all the people that have been naysayers about that, now we have to wait till our turn in the production queue.
Yeah.
All right. That's just part of it, and that was part of we knew that when we went in, and we knew when the Vietnam Kickstarter for Marauder exceeded anything they thought they'd do. We knew when Robo Skull was one of the most successful toy Kickstarters of all time. We knew those were ahead of us.
Yeah.
We had hoped that everything would run smoothly and good, but remember, a factory like that's been building modern figures and Bobby's first runs, those factories had never built an O-ring figure. That was like a lost art. So they had to relearn that. We had to source rivets because we were adamant that we didn't want plastic rivets. So the factory had to source rivets. They had to source the T-hook, which we just totally redesigned from scratch and made new T-hooks. So that's kind of what that is. So once the painted samples get to us and we approve them, it is ready to go into the queue.
Here's a question for you.
Ask me that.
So what is your flag points cutout section going to be called?
I am going to tell you, you have to wait and see, because the front of the card is awesome, but the back of the card, it's art. It's special. So I'm gonna let you guys wait on that one. I do not want to spoil that because that will be a reveal. But we'll have the whole thing, right? We'll have all that on there. But this was my special gift here.
Oh my god!
No, it's phenomenal.
Unfortunately, it's too late to add that now.
Yeah. New with toss your web action.
Okay, so what is the next slide is?
Hey, Suka, all of the links are in the description, and callsignlongbow.com. I don't know, John, do you want to expand on this? Even though you're not new to the channel, everybody knows you're full of shit.
Yeah. Is the next slide the longbow slide? I think it is. Yeah, so these are the figures, all except the Adapt Trooper that's in white at the bottom. That was a Kickstarter exclusive. All the rest of these are available for pre-order now. cslongbow.com, you'll go to that main page, and it kind of off to the right at the bottom is a little thing that says pre-order now, and it'll take you to the backer kit, and you can pre-order all of them.
That Russian Ninja is so freaking awesome.
The Red Ninja is so great because it was one of those things that, like I said, we have a lot of stuff that we
Michael,
we have a lot of stuff that we go back and forth. Troy and I back and forth on change this, do this, do this. When Troy sketched the Red Ninja, there was no doubt that figure had to be part of this.
Oh yeah. And that was one of those things that really, even though you guys had a lot of positive response when that came out, and then everybody just kept emulating, you need a freaking Russian Ninja, you need a Russian Ninja, we got a Russian Ninja, and it just helped. Yeah. And then Scuba Pete, one of my favorite and bestest moderators, put that in there, cslongbow.com.
I want to go back to James. Yeah. It's not what it's made out of. It's how the crotch area that breaks, there is a slight change to the way they're tooled, and it is made when you think about, this is way deeper than it should be, but you think about architectural design and things like how a dome is like the perfect design, because when you put pressure on the dome, it spreads that evenly. An I-beam is stronger than a stud, than just a sheet of metal, because it has the I shape. So there is
the thing is, we got to spread it out over the crotch because of the stud.
That's what she said. That's what she said.
That's what she said, Chad.
Yeah. I had to.
So it's not so much that we're making it out of a different material. We are trying a different style with the design of it, to try to make it the way on the vintage figures that crotch comes down and then bends back. That line is really sharp, and that is the point of breakage on most of them. Some of them are just shitty plastic. Rachel, you're killing me.
Wave 2.
No, of course not. we would never try to insert 80s icon into a Cold War toy line. Wait and see.
Yeah, that's weird.
There's stuff coming. There's stuff
Wink.
coming. The next full wave will be some great stuff that we waited, because this line had to, we had to, I talked about molds and everything earlier, and we had to make sure that we had the molds available to make this set of figures. And as we go forward, we will be able to make figures that are a little more unique, that fit some iconic looks. That has always been our desire. We love 80s movies. I don't think Troy and I could either one of us love Red Dawn more than the other one? Things like that. Troy, you know, when we did the 80s movie posters, like that was kind of showing movies that we loved, you know, and those things, they made us both who we are today. So we really are trying to make this as 80s as possible, you know. So there will be some nuggets in there that people will pick up on, and that's all I can say about an Ivan Drago figure. I mean,
Nice.
As cool as that would be.
I threw something in the private chat for you guys to look at. John, you just give me a yes or a no. Gonzo sends a $5 super chat. Thank you, Gonzo, so much, and says, "This is so damn awesome. I wish I knew about these before I jumped into classified. Out with gummies and in with call sign longbow. Time to make space." Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
So
Definitely.
cool. Thank you so much.
The-
And then, yeah, Jeff Butler said he went all in on the Kickstarter. Is so happy with it all. Such excellent work.
Thanks, Jeff.
Oh, hey,
Okay,
weird.
Okay, let's talk about that.
So you know what's funny? World Made of Cardboard. But that's what I just put in the private chat, based off of a private conversation that I had with these two gentlemen last year at Joe Fest. So
So what I am gonna say here, Troy and I have plans for this line lasting as long as we can pump out toys.
hell yeah.
Troy and I both want things to happen. There were toys that we never got, Russian, actual Soviet military equipment, planes that we never got to see that were clearly important during the 80s, helicopters that never got made, all of these things. If you've gone to our Longbow booth in the past, you might have seen some 3D prints of, you know, like a guard tower, a three-wheeler, things like that. We want to do those things. But I'm gonna say something here that when we talked earlier about how to do a Kickstarter and what not to do, and here's what not to do. I don't want to tell you the next thing I want to do
Right.
until I've delivered this Kickstarter to you. So you have the faith in me to deliver the product that I said I was going to produce for you. We don't want to dream big until we deliver this product. Once you guys get this product in hand, you're going to want more, and we are ready to give it to you on a massive scale, as much as we can afford, as much as we can do. But that's our passion. I mean, we when we first started, we immediately had vehicles that we wanted to make. Steel Web's going to have like the science fiction feel, but the U.S. and Soviet troops will be grounded, you know, in that reality. And as the storyline progresses, because it becomes an alternate universe, there may be some surprises in there because we are now exposed to Steel Web's technological advancements. So that will affect our timeline about how things happened in the real world, in our world.
Oh, Roswell.
Exactly.
Roswell.
So that's my answer. We do want to do vehicles, and we want more waves of figures, but it doesn't feel right to tell you guys how we're going to spend money until we've told you how we spend your money.
Right. And
Does that make sense?
See, that's
just,
that whole give and take of appreciating your audience.
Troy and I both agree that's not how you do it. You don't. Yeah. We don't want to be promising things, because the first thing people are going to say is, "Oh, they're already using our money to make something else," or they're already doing this.
And I gotta say, freaking Troy's cool as shit too. He's a cool guy.
Troy's a good dude.
I'm kind of fond of him.
Yeah. So everybody's saying you got to make Firefox. Krusty Old Crow said your first pilot needs to be Firefox with Eastwood. Yeah. Rachel says Firefox.
I'm gonna tell you, you don't have to tell him. Like
probably
he
not.
wants it. Trust me.
See, knowing that Mikey and I discuss unproduced G.I. Joe stuff a lot. James Lucas is asking maybe some vehicles based on the unproduced Joe stuff.
Maybe.
That's the Bobby Vallis special. Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, because we have so many ideas for original stuff that we want to do.
Right.
And a lot of people know that my first like step into this world with all of these other creators, and when I met Troy and I met Raging Spoon, it started with me doing a 3D model of an unproduced GI Joe vehicle.
Yeah, Michael and I have discussed that.
Yeah.
Um,
So the next time you guys discuss unproduced or unproduced items, I have two things that I would love to share with you.
that'd be right.
So that has nothing to do with Longbow, just cool unproduced stuff that,
Fucking Bushmaster.
I might have.
Oh, that was a wildly inappropriate
It
evening of
was. Anthony
conversation.
Rosario says Wolverines. Hell yeah. Rip Patrick Swayze. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Chat.
Sure, that would be so cool to actually do that. The next slide is for the people that that want something now. It is sold out at the moment, but more are coming. This is the Wolf Pilot. It is the O-ring figure that I believe will show everybody what we're capable of and what we are planning on giving you. So you know, go on the Skeletron.com, get that thing saved so it'll tell you when they're back in stock. Another cool item, you know, we talked a lot about the manufacturing of the figure and how we go through that design process. The next slide is of the book that is available for pre-order on Skeletron.com. This book is going to go through how development was. There probably will be some stuff in there about how the Wolf Trooper was designed and where it came from. So I can't recommend this book enough to somebody that is curious about how the development of a project like this happens in the modern age.
Yeah.
Like Dan's books are great for telling us how things were in the 80s and the early 90s. This book will tell you what it's like now. So thank you. I appreciate that. I believe it is going to be amazing, and there's nothing I want more than to get you guys these figures. Really, this is Troy and I put everything we have in this. We love this line, and you know that's. I wanted to get on here tonight. I wanted to talk about manufacturing because people do not seem to understand everything that's involved in it.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about funding and how you do that. I love the Kickstarter question because that is advice that I would give anybody that asked me. And, you know, I wanted a chance to show everybody like how a figure like Ghost, who came from totally different design startup to what it is going to be released, how that had to happen, all the people that were involved, all of the interactions that were involved. And I really wanted to take a minute to remind everybody that that first O-ring figure from Grindstone that Grindstone developed is out there. Like I say, they're sold out now, but anybody that has them in hand that I have talked to, I have not talked to anybody that's really disappointed in it.
Yeah, I've only seen like nothing but praise.
Yeah.
We even got praise from some people that have been involved in GI Joe for a while.
Yep.
One person that did one of the early guidebooks that everybody uses, that has been kind of out of the GI Joe world for a while. He saw this, and
is it the guy that was just on my show? That guy?
No. This guy dates a little further back than that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He used to do conventions and things like that. He actually thought that he had missed an original figure that he didn't know about.
God.
So when you have somebody
be on Paul Knapp's show coming up, if I heard correctly.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
So that is one of the things I really wanted to do tonight, and remind everybody we're going to be at DFW. Mikey and I will be. Troy and his wife are going to be at Joe Fest the same weekend. This was a perfect opportunity for us to split up and hit both fronts. I love the DFW show. Greg is a really good friend of mine, and last year we went and we had a lot of fun. And Greg is trying to make that show bigger and better. And
he is
super thrilled to be part of that. But this gives us an opportunity to show that Longbow is not really interested in all of the stuff that's going on. We're interested in getting toys in your hands that you want.
Yeah.
And we want to sell those toys. We want you to buy them. When we stop by the booth and talk to me and Mikey, we love talking about it. Mikey's going to have some awesome stuff there. And you know, as Chad has mentioned, you know, I am always willing to talk about more detail in private.
Yep. Yep.
Just because you know, I like
confirm.
one-on-one conversation. I love interacting with everybody at the shows.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of the people that I interact with, and I love this part of it. The anticipation is killing me too,
Yeah.
but but I just really want to let you guys understand everything that goes into it. Our passion for the product is immeasurable, and I am super thrilled that we can both split up and cover both bases. We when we first found out that's what was going to happen, it was hard for us to decide what we were going to do, but it made sense. Mikey and I had been to DFW before. Mikey and I both love 12-inch figures, and so it is a fun show for us. That show was you know really started. Its roots are in 12-inch, and so it's awesome to be allowed to you know to be invited to that show. And you know, like I said, I want to support Greg, and we still want to support Ed, but it's not so much about supporting them as supporting you guys. Like that's what we want. We want you guys to know that it doesn't matter what's going on, who's mad at who, or who's talking about what. We want to sell you O-ring figures, and we want you to buy them so we can make you more of them.
Yep.
For as long as we can.
Absolutely. Jeff Butler says, I met John at DFW last year and bought the figure stands. I'll be there again this year. Looking forward to seeing you all.
That's awesome, Jeff. We
Nice.
look forward to seeing you too, bud.
I am too. The Mam and I got press passes.
Oh,
Right on.
As a big
Skipping lines
surprise.
again, are we?
Yeah, skipping lines, baby. No, like
Attaboy.
look, Greg's a really awesome guy, and I wanted to buy tickets. I want to support the show. I want to support the effort and the passion and all that stuff. And I'm helping in other ways that I can, like a lot of behind the scenes stuff that Greg and I are talking about.
Sure.
But we were actually looking at tickets, and I get a message from Greg. He's like, "Hey, I need your and the Mam's full names." And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Oh, because I'm going to give you press passes." And I was like, super nice of you, but you know, yeah. So I'm going to be everywhere.
He was going to give that to whoever won Rookie of the Year. It just happened.
right.
Yeah. But apparently, I need more figures. So
You get all the accolades.
Also, I do want to say, Mikey and I are rocking Longbow shirts. Those are available on TeePublic, so you know, go grab them.
Oh, and there's one that pertains to a previous conversation. If anybody watches What's on Joe Mind, you know they coined a phrase with Troy that the Longbow figures are thick in the crotch, so you can get that T-shirt on TeePublic as well.
Nice. I got a couple of things that I want to hit. This is a question from Rachel Salinas while we were kind of talking, so I don't know if you want to touch on this or.
Good question.
Since molds are being shared,
right now the Robo Skull universe is developing. It doesn't necessarily take place in the same time frame as Longbow, but there's always the possibility that certain aspects of Longbow and the projects that they end up being involved in could have reaches to that timeline, to that world. It's very possible. Ben and Mark and Troy and I are pretty tight. We work on a lot of things together. Ben is a huge supporter and always has been. He's a very wise marketing guru. Like I say, many late nights, us, you know, on the phone trying to figure things out. It was inevitable that we would somehow do something together at some point. The molds are shared because we are kind of a team, you know. It made sense when they asked me about the Wolf Trooper. I get my Action Force and my Robo Skull stuff mixed up sometimes.
Simmer down.
Classic Action Force. Red Wolf is the pilot.
Yeah.
And the the inspiration, for the troop. I can't deny that.
Yeah.
Because I love that figure, and I wanted a way to update it in a way that we could share that, and it helped us develop Ghost and actually come up with a Ghost that looks way better than we started with. It really is a badass figure, and it's a great character, and that's why I wanted to focus on it tonight. But Rachel, yes, there could be. I don't know. Like I said, it's really hard to talk about our future plans until we get over this hurdle of production.
Yeah.
Once we get over this hurdle of production, the plant knows how to make O-ring figures. We know how to ask for them. We know how to do them in different batch levels to make sure that we get a spot in line. We've learned a lot, and as this progresses, this new O-ring renaissance, I think there's going to be a lot more people working together, trying to help each other out.
Yeah, rising tide, right? Raises all ships.
That's right.
That's how it should be. Like, and that's the cool thing that I love about like independent toy companies. You don't see them out just like shitting on each other. You just don't see it. And one thing I will say about Mark, every time I talk to Mark, more so than anybody else, Corey, Ben, whatever, I'm like, hey, Mark, maybe you could give me a modern update to this beautiful machine. And he's like, no reply. So
yeah, it's one of those things that you can't say anything, but you can do this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, he's like, I don't know.
Yep. All you better guard your potato chips for me at DFW because I'm coming for it.
I was thinking about having decoy chips.
Yeah, decoy chips.
Yeah.
Made out of cardboard. Speaking of which, I got a comment from World Made of Cardboard. Crusty Old Crow said, I love to catch you in Ottawa one day for sure and pick your brain. I'd love to. Yeah. It's actually fascinating to get to see the sausage get made. It is. It really is. Very cool. World Made of Cardboard says, I may have a bias, but make some cardboard playsets.
You never know. You never know.
As we were talking about earlier, also deliver the cardboard playsets.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
So, the thing is,
down the road,
of all the things that customizers can do that honor the line, it is things like cardboard playsets. I'm telling you, that is awesome. One of my favorite pieces, I may have shown you guys, the Action Force headquarters. I know Mikey has seen
yes.
it. I love that. I love the Death Star playset that Palatoy did. I just, I love it because it's clever. I like it because it takes a little engineering knowledge to come up with something so cool, And
it's also heavy cardstock. It's not cheap.
Yeah,
no, and good shit.
So definitely, I don't know if we will ever do cardboard playsets, but I would encourage anyone to do.
Another thing that we had talked about previously, speaking of like people honoring lines and customizers and stuff, sticker sheets. Talked about that. Sticker sheets. Yep.
Yeah, sticker sheets are another thing that
I will.
Get
out of some stuff.
Like I'm customizing some special. What were they? I can't think of the name of them. The Special Weapons Force from Action Force that didn't get built.
Yep.
Didn't get made. I have a set of that. I have a set of those that I am customizing right now, and I would love to get custom stickers for it. I would love to, like the people that make the MMS stickers, I would like for them just to run me some in black instead of white so they show up against that white background.
Yeah.
Things like that. I can see that. And when you see the Special Weapons team layout full of adapt troopers.
Oh, yeah.
You can see the beauty of what that line could have been. But that's a low key thing. That's a custom thing. That's just something I love. So I didn't want to get too deep in Adapt Trooper today because it was a Kickstarter exclusive, and if you weren't in the Kickstarter, it's going to be a lot harder to get that figure.
Yeah, eBay exclusive, missed the boat.
Secondary market,
and that's okay because that's the nature of the hobby, right? So if you're not at the ground floor, you got a secondary market that, or you got to find the I'm looking out for the community fam type people.
Yeah. I need it for my kids.
Yeah. He only has $3 though.
He only got $3, and man, all he ever wanted was that Adapt Trooper every time he saw it.
Yeah.
Me too.
He always wanted the
Me too,
action force
Sam.
figures.
Me too.
That
I'll
was
give
really
you give you about 350. Give about 350.
my tree fitted.
I ain't giving no monster no 350. Awesome. Well, this was a freaking blast. I loved it. The chat was just phenomenal, and
Great interaction.
John, I cannot thank you enough. And this was all your idea. This whole show was your idea. You're like, hey, Chad, maybe we could.
Yeah, it just with all the other stuff going on, I just felt like it would be nice if if we could just do a show about the positivity of the industry right now, of the independent toy makers making stuff, and as Ken says, the O-ring renaissance. I love that term because it is. He said rising tide, and that is what we're trying to do. We're all trying to work together, and we do some work. We help Carson. Carson helps us with his line. Everybody is really into helping each other out and making things happen, and that is. I never dreamed that it would be like that. I really, when we first started talking about Call Sign Longbow, we had guys that were very much G.I. Joe fans, and they told us like, yeah, O-ring's dead, man, it ain't gonna happen. And it's happening, and it's not just us, it's other people doing it. Carson's taking it to the top level. I mean, he's doing it in a way that is something none of us would have ever dreamed could happen. So I can't I can't say enough that I love this. I love doing this, and I think that if more people understand what's going on, I think it makes you know a little bit more about when you do support a Kickstarter, what those creators are going through and what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
and
it's not just, sitting back drinking Mai Tais like, I have your money.
When a run of bad things happen in China or in Colombia or Vietnam or wherever you are having your stuff produced,
freaking India, God forbid, right?
Yeah, and it just it just snowballs, and you have to make a choice whether you refund people or you keep going, and that worst case scenario, I mean, we have no intention of having to do that. Things are going great, and production's happening. We're getting our queue in. We're going to be able to have you some toys pretty quick here, I hope. And I think you're going to love them. And if you're not sure, and if you don't have that Wolf Trooper yet, get on there and keep an eye out for it when it pops back up. Grab a couple because they are an absolute blast.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we're gonna wind it down. Everybody, thank you for staying, but hop on over to Hella Dope Toys and show those dudes some love on their stream. And don't forget, tomorrow morning, the video of my Night Striker restoration drops. John, you got any closing thoughts for me and the masses?
Well, thanks for doing this, Chad. It was important to me to do this. I've been wanting to get on the show again for a while. We would like to, I'd love to do another show. I'd like to talk about some of the unproduced stuff that I've been involved in. And, but I'm thrilled to be able to do this and talk to everybody about something that I know a lot of people were curious about, how this really happens and everything that goes into it. And just, to be able to share some of that knowledge without, I mean, I can't give away trade secrets, obviously, but
of course.
I love doing this, and I love toys, and I love talking about it. So if you see me at DFW and you want to chat about it, just come on over and talk to me about it. Ask me questions. I love interacting with fans. You guys are investors.
Yeah.
You took a chance, and you put your faith in us, and we want to make sure that everybody is accounted for, and that we are keeping you up to date on what's going on in our world. We try to put out a update every month to let you know something, because every month we have something. Every month something is moving, and there are a lot of moving parts. And again, thank you to everybody that was in the Kickstarter. Thank you to everybody that still gets on the pre-order page. The last couple of months, we've jumped up a couple of $1,000s, which, at this point, sometimes you wonder, like, are we still going to be able to sell this stuff? But obviously the Wolf Trooper hitting the stands and people being able to have them in hand, I think really proved that we put the work in up front to make sure that we could produce a awesome set of figures. So that's all I have. I just thank you to you guys, and I hope that you learned something today. I hope it was informative.
Oh, it's freaking awesome. And thank you everybody in the chat for hanging out with these two fine gentlemen and my dog. Yeah, this was a blast. Thank you so much, John. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for bringing the images, because that helps me a lot too.
Sure.
Yeah, that was really cool. And everybody who's still here in the chat, yeah, by all means, if you've never had a conversation with John or Mikey, they're your people, because these guys they're lifelong collectors too. So
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, Mikey, you're signing us out, buddy.
All right. Okay. Well, like like Dad said, we appreciate you guys' support with the line and with our friends' lines. It means the world to us. And thank you for the extra love in the chat. That means a great deal to me. And Dad, you know what your opinion means to me. I appreciate the hell out of that. I'm proud of you too, buddy. I love you, man.
Thank you, son. I appreciate
it. You guys are sweet. That's actually really cool.
That's actually pretty cool.
No, it is. It's super sweet. I don't have a dad, so yeah. Let me hear this. Let me hear it.
Make toys great again. 2024. We're coming for you. Get on the train, baby.
I think I'm gonna make that shirt. I need to make that shirt.
Got to.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. Anyway, thank you all for being here. You're all freaking awesome. Go over to Hella Dope Toys, showing some love, and tell them I kept you. Have an awesome day.